hope he passes some laws of genocidal talk
Zahra
puts you in
al-Lawlani.
jail. I
This
really
guy's
do.
in
I want
Arizona though,
Miami to win.
Yeah.
and I don't agree with censorship. But this guy's in Arizona anyway now, and he's doing Aliyah now, so it's irrelevant. He's going back to Israel.
Yeah. No, I was in New York 45 years. I'm out. No more Ed Koch, no more Giuliani, no more Bloomberg. New York's not for poor people. And
Couldn't
all I
couldn't
see in New
couldn't
York is
couldn't
poor
afford
people
couldn't
right now.
afford the rent in Bronx. I get it. So you moved to Arizona.
Yeah.
No,
I get it. You couldn't
he's
afford
moving
it
to
anymore.
Israel because you get the all free.
Understandable.
I'm moving to Israel next is my last
Yeah, well,
stop.
Arizona is a lot cheaper too, though.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm here. Plus, I had to get away from the Yemenis. My old neighborhood was taken over by Yemeni Arabs. And, they're like robbing each other in the street at night. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on in my old neighborhood, but what are you going to do? That's progress.
But you're gonna tell me that the Bronx is not good, not safe because of the Yemenis?
Yes,
Are you kidding
Yemenis
me?
have moved
Uh,
in. All the Puerto Ricans
Okay.
moved out. And there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
Arabs in the Bronx. It's just a fact now. I've seen it when I was there in 2018 with my own eyes. I had to live there for a year. It was, so,
Yeah, it's the Yemenis that there's an issue.
well, there's a lot of Yemenis. Yeah.
It's not the Yeah, you don't think the whole neighborhood is a problem? The way things were structured were a problem?
Well,
The way that Trump actually took funds that was supposed to go to the Bronx to rebuild Bronx to build a hotel and kind of blackmailed the city in order to do so? That's not the problem? You don't think any of that stuff is the problem? That almost every single person in the Bronx is a victim of crime or perpetrates crime, not specifically the Yemenis? I mean, it's not being honest by saying it's the Yemenis that are taking down the Bronx. I mean, that's the stupidest thing I've heard on a space yet.
Everyone knows it's a Yemeni mob
they
for
have a
sure.
lot of black people there too. It's not just the Yemenis. I mean, it's a lot. Once they move into public housing, the Italians were in public housing, the Jews were in public housing, the Irish were in public housing. But once the blacks went in public housing, then the like grandchildren were having babies, and like the public housing was like passed on to families. And it's like, yo, you're supposed to like, get an education for your kids and move up in society. But the blacks really didn't do that. And now that the Yemeni Arabs are coming in, they're taking these apartments too, and they're not going to let them go either. So, but New York is not for poor people. All I see running around in the streets are poor people in Times Square. And you got to make money in New York City. You can't be subsidized by the government and like live in shelters and like go, running around like $1 billion properties. It's just not right. Like it's not right. Like those people shouldn't be there at all. It's a upper class city. There's canoeing on the Hudson River. You could take a airplane ride over the skies, a helicopter ride. You can go out into the Hamptons in the summer. Like these people are just like low class, low wage earners, and we don't need that many Uber Eats people to deliver.
Don't you live
So
off the government? What are you talking about?
no, I mean I don't live off the government. I mean I do okay. I am disabled. Yeah, I am disabled, so I have a top Medicare plan. So I'm okay with that. I don't really pay anything for that. It's what seniors get. But so yeah, Gaza is in real trouble. You know, the operation's going to happen. I know they're talking about maybe releasing the hostages before Gaza City gets taken over. I hope they do to make it much easier. But it's going to be another 2 months of this. It's going to be really rough.
Yeah, the
Good
IDF
luck,
is not
guys.
wanting to go in.
Let me just paint a real picture. There's a section of the Bronx called Morris Park. Around that area, they call it Little Yemeni. There's probably over 500 Yemeni-owned businesses in that area. They do suffer a lot of break-ins and things of that nature, but those break-ins have not been Yemenis for the most part. So when people like this come up here, that's what they try to say. They're like, "Oh, look, it's Yemeni on Yemeni," but they haven't been addressed by the police, and this has been a regular problem, right? But he comes up here and tries to make it seem like Yemenis are ruining the Bronx.
No,
They
it's
own
the
like
blacks. The blacks.
they take over an area called Morris
The
Park,
blacks.
and that's where it's mostly Yemeni, and they stick together. Why? Because they're discriminated against constantly by people like Owie,
Yeah,
right? And they have
I
problems
know
getting
Morris Park
housing and
really
everything
well.
else.
It used to be all Italian. It's a shame.
Yeah, and now it's all Yemeni.
Yes.
That's good when immigrants move up in America, is it not, Howie? So
Yeah,
they
that's
moved to
fine.
Long
That's
Island,
fine.
correct?
The Italians
Yeah,
from
that's a
Morris
good
Park, they
thing.
moved upstate. They moved to Westchester County. So now they're
Okay,
all up
great,
there.
great,
But when the Yemenis
great
and the
suburb.
blacks, they never want to move up. They never want to go to the suburbs. They're always going to be there. They like take over forever.
That's not true. They also move. That's what happens in America. Immigrant populations come up, and after 1 or 2 generations, they move up the chain.
But the
That's what
black
happens.
guys,
Westchester is a very rich suburb of New York. They're doing well. That is a good sign.
yeah,
Do
but
you want to keep them in the Bronx?
the blacks
No,
aren't
you
up
don't.
there.
They're going to make money, and they're going to move out. And guess what? In 2 generations, the Yemenis will move out of there too, and they'll move up.
No, they're regressing. They don't want to move up. They like to be repressed. They have no
So
desire
racist.
to move on up, buddy. That's the issue. The black people do
Yeah,
that.
everyone leaves their family
like a
behind, not
sentence.
because they want to move up and
Sorry,
give
guys,
up
I'm just trying to get
being in
this
touch with their
the
family and where they
stream
feel
set
safe
up. I'm
because they
streaming
want
on
to
TikTok
regress. That
and
makes a lot of sense, Howie. Really smart
It's their
comment
culture.
tried to
from you.
They
do
want to wear
Facebook, but that's not
hijabs
working.
and those hijab,
But
the
what's up?
full length ones,
This
and
is
that's what they
for
want to
those who
do. They
are
like
on
to be
right now,
repressed,
a space.
just like Gazans love to be
I do
repressed.
these
They love
spaces with
living in that
Simon
rubble,
and
man. They
Suleiman.
love
I am
that
not in
stuff.
this one
Do,
right
They
now.
live for that.
Howie, do nuns
Fuck you.
like to be repressed? Do nuns like to be
Let me
repressed?
just
Do
mute it so
nuns?
you can hear
Nuns.
me talk. Let me know if you
Yeah.
guys can hear me okay.
I don't know what that
But
means.
yeah, this is
A
a
nun. A
space
nun
that
wears a garment that's
Suleiman's
very
probably one of the
similar.
biggest
Oh
spaces
Do they
yeah,
like
okay.
to be
Well,
repressed?
she's
X.
a religious
I'm
person,
typically
like
part of
in
the
like
one
the
that's in the morning
priesthood.
at 9
She's not
a.m.
like an average
This
woman
one
who's
that's
just
more
dressing up.
financial.
It's
This is
totally
politics. I
different.
haven't gotten
Why
in
is it
yet.
But
different?
that's actually how
Not sure if
Christians
I'm
used
going
to
to at
dress.
this point.
Jews dress a lot different too, but we live in
But just listening in, and
2025, and we don't need
hope
to
you guys
dress that
enjoy
way or
Howie,
think like
Even the
talking along with
1,300
Orthodox
some of
years ago.
these.
Jews.
Go to
That's
Sheepshead
ridiculous.
Bay. You guys wear
I
the
regularly
women
see
wear wigs to
exactly.
cover their hair. What are you talking about? They're
Exactly.
covered up also.
And not as well, Jewish men like similar. It's very similar. They got big beards. They wear the uniform. They traditional Jewish uniform. They basically wear the hats on. They're all wearing kippas on, even if they're not religious. So when you're when you're insulting people who are religious for and calling them repressive, I mean, anywhere I go, whether it's in airports, whether it's in France, wherever it may be, I'm always seeing a large number of religious Jewish people wearing their religious traditional garment. It reminds me of God Saad, where he put a picture up and he goes, "Oh, these women." Trying to insult Muslims, say, "Oh, these women are oppressed, or they look like a garbage bin, or something." And then someone exposed it. That it was actually of Jewish. It was of a Jewish sect, and those women were from that Jewish sect. So again, everything you're saying, it can actually be applied to
I'm low,
Jewish
Lucky.
tradition.
Like real low.
Yeah, and Solomon, their women wear wigs to cover their head. So it's the same thing. They just do it with wigs. It's a little different. In Islam, that you're not supposed to attract the opposite sex. In Judaism, I don't know actually why they can use a wig but not their hair. It's just it seems kind of weird to me because you're just replicating what you have on your head. So I
I
don't know
wanted
why
to
cover it.
actually ask a question about this
It's to not
actor
show their natural
yesterday.
hair, as far as I know.
That Tony Aguilar guy, he said he was in 25 years in 4 wars. How many Arab Muslims do you think he's martyred and sent to paradise? I mean, he said he was fighting on the front lines, and I'm sure he's had a lot of killed in action. And the enemy were Arab
I
Muslims
need
at
to
the
just talk
time.
into the
So
microphone
I
more
don't
than
know
not.
how like credible this guy is, you know.
So just
Oh, now you're defending Muslims.
Yeah,
Now he
I'm
wants to get
defending
sympathy
Muslims.
for
Schizophrenic
killing
or
Muslims.
something?
And also he already deleted his X account. He was only on X for like 20 hours because all the Green Berets were going after him.
No, that's not what happened. So what happened was, this is just lies and propaganda. I actually spoke to him. Um, and it's not because the Green Berets were going after him.
Guys, first
He
time for
only
me
opened that
live
Twitter
on
account
TikTok,
specifically
so
for our space. That was the only reason he
I'm
opened
trying
that
to figure
account.
this out on the fly.
And it was solely for our space, and he was meant to shut the account
I gotta
immediately
move this
after
live
our
studio so I
space.
can see.
Okay.
Now,
I can't do it.
let me finish, How you need to stop interrupting because your mic is annoying.
I can't
And I
do
want
it
to
on
clarify
Apple.
this in case there's
I can only do it
lies or
on Windows.
propaganda that is
sucks.
insinuated about him. So what happened was, please, because I know you Zionists lie, and they put propaganda out about this guy. So what happened was he solely opened the account for our space, and actually, I'm the one who told him to open the account because he was gonna come on our space, and there was a few options that I could do. I mean, him coming on the space is normally the only way. He's not on any social media. And I was thinking of alternatives that maybe I need to do video. And unfortunately, my team couldn't get it sorted out in time because my the person who sorts the videos out in my team, he was traveling. So the other option was for him to ring one of my phones so you can hear it on another phone. And I thought, oh look, that's not going to come across great. So anyway, then he opened the Twitter account, luckily for the space. And the idea was that he was going to open the Twitter account for the space and then close it immediately after the space. Now, what happened was, apparently, I think from what I know, this he didn't tell me himself, but apparently other people contacted him and wanted him to come on spaces as well. And so he left the Twitter account open. Now, because he left the Twitter account open, he saw some of the comments that were being made and he obviously refuted them, where really he was meant to close the account and leave. And then he basically, went and back and forth with them. And I mean, I spoke to him and things didn't look like great in terms of what was happening. But in the sense of not in terms of what he was saying. What he was saying, he was completely destroying them. But they were holding a space and attacking him, and he's just too high and too above that. You don't want to be basically getting in the gutter with some unknown, anonymous, fake Green Beret account when we don't. He's got no credibility, no legitimacy. We don't know who he is whatsoever. So I spoke to him and I said, look, it might be a good idea if you just go offline. Like, I wouldn't degrade myself to these people's level. Like, Twitter is a cesspool and you have to have a certain thing to be able to smash them. Like, if you look at
Here we
me,
go.
I'm willing to, like, I
Producer
obviously try and
Bethany
be
in the
academic
house.
when I need to be academic, but sometimes I'll just go in and smash Zios. But I think someone like him, his experience, his army experience, the level of credibility he has, he's not gonna do that. And you can't, in my view, survive too long on Twitter without basically getting in the gutter with people. And
Can
so
I ask
that's
you a
the
question about
reality.
Amir's mother?
Howie, control yourself. Listen, I know you're gonna do Alia, but you're not doing Alia into my space. Control your emotions and don't interrupt me when I'm speaking. And so for that reason, I mean, I said, look, it's probably not great to have an X account. In my view, you've never had social media. Stick to interviews and just do those. And so that's why he's gone offline. It's because of the conversation I had with him. So I take
Also,
full responsibility for making him come on Twitter and making him leave Twitter. Go ahead.
yeah, Suleiman, also about the Green Beret that, how he's here is trying to paint. A Green Beret is special forces. Special forces is a lot less likely to kill civilians in a mission than someone who's on the front lines. Green Berets are not serving on the front lines. Green Berets conduct special missions. Most of the time, the only time civilians get killed in those kind of operations is if they had bad intel. If they had
If
bad
that's the
intel,
case,
that can happen.
Joe, can I ask you a question? I'm willing to continue because I think what you're saying is extremely important and interesting for the audience, especially because we're going to release the full interview tomorrow. But you mentioned that, but why did Matt Retardio, who allegedly is a Green Beret, murder a child then?
It could have been bad intel, or he's just a psychopath. I would lean towards being a psychopath more than more than bad
Well, he was
intel. But
proud of
that's
it. He
just
did a
from
space. He did a
that's
space
just from
called.
speaking. Yeah, that's just
Well, he
from
did a
speaking
space.
to
I
him.
think he titled it "I Killed a Child" or something.
Yeah, I remember. Me and Matt have gone at it for a long time because he said he was an explosive expert, and then when I challenged him on the fact that a 2,000-pound bomb could knock someone down within a mile diameter, he said that's completely untrue. And then when I went to AI and actually showed him the calculations and everything else, he still said it was untrue. When I showed him in a explosive, like a manual that showed that it could, if the land is flat, to actually trip someone up and they would fall down within a mile diameter. He still said it was untrue. So and then I just gave up because this guy, I don't know what the hell he's thinking. I have I have a lot of doubts on how much experience. It might be like John Spencer, who likes to talk about international policy and strategy a lot when he basically all he did was manage tanks and has no experience whatsoever in deciding whether America should nuke Tehran, like he said before, or that we should rain hellfire on Moscow, like he said when Russia invaded Ukraine. So this guy has been wrong constantly, and you have to be very careful of these experts that come on here and are on here 8 hours a day. When it comes to Aguiar, I trust him a lot more. Why? Because he's not on Spaces all day. He's not a paid actor. This actually impacted his life greatly, especially when it comes to exposing things that happened with his marriage, and he hasn't stopped. Right? I do not think this is someone who's paid, whereas Matt Tardio, I think, is paid. And we
Well,
do know that
actually,
there are
just
several agents who are paid on X.
just on that, so 2 points. Actually, funny enough, he did send me some information which he told me to put out. So let me put it out. I did promise him I would do. And this is before he left Twitter. So the first thing is he did mention in the space yesterday that Matt Ritardio is actually paid by UG Solutions. That's one point, Joe. The other point is this. He said this to me. He said, I agree, successful. Okay, so he sent an image of Matt Ritardio's legal fund. It's a support Matt Ritardio's legal defense fund. And it says Matt Ritardio is the host of Speak the Truth podcast, a retired U.S. Army beret and a former law enforcement officer. Is currently facing a multi-million-dollar lawsuit and needs help in supporting his legal defense. Matt Ritardio has been top supporter of Israel in the fight against disinformation through his work on the podcast and media reporting. He was featured in Honest Report, Israeli National News, and many more news outlets for debunking the New York Times opinion article titled 65 doctors, nurses, and paramedics, what we saw in Gaza, which dishonestly made readers believe IDF were shooting Palestinians in the head in Gaza. So first of all, that's a lie, because we've had doctors on here who have confirmed that the Israelis kill regularly. But this is what he said to me. He said, Sully, I'm off.
So there was
off
a
X. So
Suleiman had a
I don't know how anyone
space
deals with such
last
garbage. I'm glad I was never on social
with
media,
a
and I'm
Green
staying off
Beret,
social media.
retired
You
Green
are right.
Beret that
It's
was
a cesspool.
actually
Because I did say to him,
in
look,
Gaza
X is a cesspool, so you just be careful in
and
terms of
saw
when you
what was
navigate it.
going on.
He said,
I missed
anyway,
it.
post
I
this and pass
was
this on.
doing
You
other
are
things. And I
100%
think that's what
right
we're
about
talking
Matt
about now.
Ritardio. What a
There's
scum.
this guy in
And
here,
then
the
he wrote,
cartoonish guy,
Matt
Howie,
Ritardio is a grifter and a
is a
schemer begging
Zionist
for
that is
money
arguing with
online. He
everybody
has
else that's in
lawsuits against
here
him
and
and he
showing
lies.
the
And he
arrogance
wears
of
his
these
special forces
guys.
pin
And
to
so
represent
I just
himself
decided
in
to go
his lies.
live
It's pathetic.
because
Get this as far and wide as
yeah, it's an
possible. So that
interesting
was
conversation.
what
And I also wanted to stream to
Anthony sent me, and I'm
TikTok
going
for
to
the
tweet
first
that out
time
actually, because I did say that
and
I would do it. I've said
kind
it
of
on the
test
space.
this software
I
out
will
to see
tweet
how
that
things are
out
going
tomorrow
and
as well.
listen to the
I
space.
did
I
say to
might
him I
go
would do
in.
that. So yeah, that's
Like I said, I do
that was his last
the
comments
1
before he left
on
X.
And
9 a.m.
Suleiman,
Eastern
you
when
know
we
that
talk
there's
about
no
financial
proof that
stuff, and we'll probably go over
Matt
some of
Hardy
those
is
things that
being
we talked
civilly
about.
sued.
But this is
There's
the
no
political
evidence
one that he does at
whatsoever. There's
night,
nothing been filed. He's never
and I
showed
just wanted to
anything.
jump in real
Not a
quick
single
and
person
kind of
knows
listen
what the
to it
civil
and see
suit
where
is
it goes.
about, except for what he said it's about. But there's no evidence. There's nothing filed.
What did he claim it was about?
I think he said it's about something. Actually, I don't know if he's actually ever claimed what it was about. I think it was about some assault of a Palestinian protest in UCLA.
Thanks, Lucky. I appreciate that. Thanks for
He
coming
wasn't ever
along
there,
and
though.
listening. I'll probably get into
I
some
don't
stuff
know.
later. These are the
Oh
things
no
you
no
sort
no
of kind
no
of
no.
warm up
Okay,
and get
sorry,
into.
that's wrong. That's wrong. I don't know what it's about. No one knows what it's about. Have not seen anything. I've searched for it when I was arguing with him in the past. Couldn't find anything. Someone told me that he did say once what it was about, but I can't find
Producer
anything.
Bethany
And I've
tells me I
looked
should
deep.
not talk while
And if
the other
anyone
guys
up
are
here
talking,
knows,
so I'll
please
mute
say
it.
it, because I haven't found
But
this damn
yeah,
thing.
no, I appreciate that, Lucky. I will probably get into some other things to
Yeah.
bang. They may shut this space down in the next hour or so anyway, or even less.
Yeah, and that's interesting.
But I've got
Actually,
a bunch
I'm
of things to
interested in that
talk about,
because
especially
I mean, if he's doing a big con,
what
then people need to know, and if it's
IU
legitimate,
was talking
people need
about
to know.
with the
This is why
Alaskan
I've always
summit.
kind of stopped fundraisers
Kind of
from
go over
happening
that. I
on
mean, it's not,
spaces. I think someone came yesterday and
not
was
a
like,
lot
"Oh,
for
I'm
me
doing
to talk
legal
about because obviously
legal
it's a big
fundraiser,"
deal
and I was
that's
like, "Look,
happening
please don't
tomorrow. But
advertise
we'll
it
get
on
into
my
that and
space
some
because
other stories and
I
things
don't
like
want to be
that.
responsible
And
for people giving money on my
we'll see
space
how this
when I have a
plays out.
responsibility to my audience." Now, if there's something that I vetted properly myself and I know it, that's a totally different situation. But I'm just not going to allow it to happen because people like Matt Retardio and things that have happened in the past. I just won't allow it. And so Matt Retardio is an example of that. Now, I don't know anything about his legal thing or what it is or how it is or what the situation is. I really don't know. But I have huge question marks over all of those situations. So I think it's a fair point that you make, Joe. And I would actually want to know. Somebody ask Matt Retardio what is. And by the way, he blocked me. He blocked me, like, I don't even know for what reason, other than smashing him on spaces. I don't know, understand what other reason he would have, where his emotions took the better of him and he was unable to explain the reasoning for why he blocked. But yeah, he did that as well. But Joe, great. Like, I know you had a debate with him in the past as well, so you know that he's kind of, he is a fraud. Let's bring in Zingle.
Hey man, just give me like 15 seconds. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Zayo.
I just want to give a shout out to everyone in the comments. People are giving me a lot of love. People are giving me a lot of hate. But the purpose is we're supposed to have fun, you know. So I just want to appreciate, you know, all the comments, good and bad.
No,
What do you think it's the show, like the Howie
it's not
show?
a show, bro.
All about Howie.
This guy, bro, I don't know. But
Yeah, all
it's the
the
mind of
rooms
a
in this
Zayo. So
space
welcome to
should be
the
you
real
guys
mind of a
entertaining
Zayo.
people.
Oh yeah, I guess the real mind of a Zayo. Zingle, jump in whenever you're ready. But
Right, thanks, man.
That's really
Yeah,
revealing though that he said this is to have fun. Like this is entertainment for him, so he makes it entertaining. That's very revealing to your answers.
oh yeah, and just before you go, brother, just give me 2 seconds. Apologies, I did say I was gonna go to, but just let me just read some of these super chats out because we've actually got quite a few have come in, and I appreciate hugely the support in the space. So look, it does mean a lot. Like you saw it, these like any kind of funding you're giving towards the super chats and the super chats you're doing, I'm just using it to put it back into getting clippers, getting editors, these type of things. Because like, look, it's important that these spaces become self-sufficient and we're allowed to get as much eyeballs as possible. We've got the Glenn Greenwald interview in the nest. If you guys can retweet that, we've got 20 guys. We've only got 25 comments on there. If we can have 700 people on there, if everybody can comment on the Glenn Greenwald interview in the nest, that would be really helpful. Like if we can get that tweet to 100,000, I think that's good, and then we can use that for getting more people on spaces. This is the first super chat, which is £25, and it is. Thank you, Suleiman, for creating this space where people are able to hear logical arguments. This space
Hopefully,
and your
I turned
well-read
down the
panel of
volume of
speakers
that tab a little bit. Let
educate
me
me
know if that
daily. I especially
helps
thank
at
you for the
all.
24-hour coverage of the
And again,
war
I'll
when
try not to
Israel
talk
attacked
over
Iran.
anybody.
A special shout out to Simon Dixon. From the river to the sea, Palestine will indeed be free, for sure. I added the indeed, obviously, as you know. The other super chat is from Earthrise. Earthrise always supporting the space. Really appreciate you. She said, I just want to correct Real Howie. It is not a war. Calling Israel's actions a war is misleading. Wars are fought between sovereign states, but since the Nakba in 1948, Palestinians have lived under Israeli occupation, making this an asymmetrical assault by an occupying power, not a conflict between equals. Golden point, Earthrise, and on point, pure diamond. And then a £14 super chat, and it is this. It says, "Hello, Suleiman. I appreciate what you're doing. It's truly a thing of beauty that this perennially parasitic, inherently internationalist, viciously vampiric tribe of Talmudic rapo goblins. You cannot go up to a single Gentile on earth, on any street, in any city, from Lagos to New York to London to Chagos Islands to Chicago to Hanoi to Tokyo to Buenos Aires to Tulkarem to Gangazu to Vanuatu to the Vatican City. The entire world is waking up to these demonic Talmudic entrepreneurs. The entire Gentile world is waking up, and the Jews will pray for even Adolf Hitler to come back and save them from this grave. Noticing the Jews will be transferred to Rothschild Island in Antarctica, a real place. Google it. Thanks for the support of the space. Let me bring in. I don't know who was speaking. Oh, I said Zingle. I was going to go to you, wasn't I? Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, was who's this guy? The real Howie G15? Yeah, dude. You said a
Guys, I'm
lot
going
of
to move
bullshit,
on
man,
here in
and
a few
talking a
minutes. I
lot of
know
shit
this
about the
this might be boring
military.
to some of you, but
When you wouldn't last a day, bro.
I just wanted to
Especially
kind of
Green
warm
Beret
up the space and
selection.
kind of get things
It's
going. I
engineered to
wasn't going to start
humiliate,
until 9
starve,
p.m.
exhaust, and mentally
anyway,
break the strongest men
yeah,
alive,
we'll move on to
which you've
something else.
humiliated yourself plenty in this space, but you don't fit any of that criteria. Also, Kane is the operating baseline, not just in those pipelines, but also operationally when you get out to the fleet, or in his case, you get out to the field. So the question, a veteran's military service record and say he was killing Muslims indiscriminately is a pretty insane thing to say, and you better back that up, man. Also, Matt Tardio, like I said last night in
Yeah,
the
Lucky, I
space,
need to. Yeah,
sorry, I'm at
I
the
get a
gym, guys.
lot on. I
Um,
got 19 or so on X, and
I,
that
I
starts
couldn't
to
find
kind of
anything on
grow
this
over
guy.
time. But yeah, we definitely.
Probably wasn't a Green
I was
Beret,
on Rumble.
probably
I
was
was
just a
getting nothing
ranger,
there.
which there's nothing wrong with
Used to get a
that.
lot on
Um,
YouTube, but
but
unfortunately, if
possibly
I'm not
never even
consistent and
served.
I'm
And if
not
he's getting sued,
streaming all the time,
um,
it's hard to get
he could
good
be tried
numbers. So
criminally in
I have to
Florida.
force
It's a
myself to
class one
basically be
felony
on every
if you
single
commit
night.
stolen valor
But I appreciate
for
the support
financial
and
gain, whether in person, business,
thanks for the comments. I
or in
really
social
appreciate
media.
that.
If you commit stolen valor for financial gain, like I think he's doing, that's a felony in Florida, punishable by up to 5 years and a $250,000 fine. I also think that if you are a veteran, you should have to post your DE 214, and I'll gladly give you mine, Howie. You can read it in depth, man. Even though I'm pretty sure you don't know how to read it, but anybody who wants my DE 214, I will be happy to send it to you. Both of them, actually. Yeah, so that just really triggered me. That pissed me off. But I'll throw it back to you guys. I gotta finish my workout. Thanks.
Gringo, settle down, bro. We don't want to aggravate your PTSD, dude. You know what I mean? Chill out.
Is he
Everything's gonna be
is he
okay.
being accused? Is he being accused of stolen valor? Do you know that, or was that just an assumption?
No,
I,
that's my
I,
Yeah,
assumption,
Lucky.
but I've
Actually,
also read
I want to
that
start
in
doing more
the
interviews
the
myself
worst
with certain people. And
places
like
to
I
read that,
said,
like
these guys,
a lot of
Suleiman,
these operator
Simon hasn't
pages on
spoken yet. I was
Instagram
hoping we
and
could listen
X,
to him.
the ones that are calling out Tim
But
Kennedy
I
for his stolen
understand some of
valor,
this stuff can
faking the
kind of get
medals,
boring
faking the
and
deployments, and
sort of
embellishing
political
like he was actually a Green
and
Beret.
all that
They're
stuff.
saying
But
the same thing
I'm going
about
to give it
Matt
a couple more
Tardio and
minutes.
also
We'll
that
go till
I don't know who that
maybe
Green
5 more
Beret
minutes
guy
or so.
that
And then I'm going to get into
people were going after
a bunch of different
yesterday. That was
stories
he was
and
going after Tony Aguilar
go
last
into
night.
that. But yeah, you're right. I
I
mean, I
don't know
need
the guy's
to.
name, but he has Green Beret in
Interviews
his
would definitely
X
help.
name.
And I've been thinking about that, getting some people on. 'Cause these guys that are in these spaces, they've done
On
TED
that,
Talks. So
You triggered a
Simon
memory that
has
I
done
don't
a TED
remember
Talk.
if it was him now, but I remember someone was being accused of stolen valor.
Who's
That was
this?
a space host and had a
Joe, I
podcast.
think,
But
is a billionaire.
now I don't remember if it was him, but maybe that is what the civil
I'm not sure
suit
exactly
is.
what he does, but this guy
yeah, they
Simon
always go
is
after the first thing they
very,
do
very
is they
well known in the
attack.
Bitcoin
They
space and has
first they
done
attack
TED
their
Talks. A
background, like oh,
very
wife beater.
successful investor.
Then they attack their
And like I
service.
said, Suleiman,
But
he's
Tony
got over
Aguilar,
700,000
he's
followers
got
on
it all
X.
right there up front. And when I listened to him speak, it was powerful.
And he runs some of
And
the
the guy's
biggest,
talking from the heart.
X
But
spaces.
forget the
And that's what
whole
we're
thing
listening
about
to
where he
now.
served.
Those of
Okay,
you
I
who
am
don't
not at
know,
liberty to discuss Navy SEAL or Green Beret operations
You
right
guys can't
now.
hear me?
I've served with Navy SEAls. My very, very close
Let me
friend
know if
Ed
you can hear
Winters,
me.
he and I went through OCS together.
But
We
yeah,
did
so
2
he runs
deployments
some of the
together.
biggest
And
spaces
also
on X.
regarding
So
Green Berets, I'm not at liberty to discuss something about that. But their work in, let's be honest, in Indonesia, our Green Beret does conduct let's put it this way, we're not allowed to talk about it. It's very clandestine, but they're taking out people who are slaughtering innocents. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. When I say slaughtering innocents, I'm talking about the Islamic jihadists right where I was married in Thailand, the Abu Sayyaf group. They went in and hacked up a family with machetes and stuff like that. Now, every religion, the Islamic extremists, they have their bad guys. Christianity, what Christians have done in the name of God, in the name of Jesus, is we won't even get started there. And the same thing like Howie and this fringe of Jews, the Zionists, they're the worst of the worst on their side for what their religion is. So taking all that forget it. Instead of attacking what Aguilar said, Colonel Aguilar, and I salute him, take what he said, boots on the ground, eyewitness. That man, and I hope everyone watches what he said. That man had 12 tours. Now, I know 3 that he mentioned. I worked Desert Storm 1 from the Pentagon. I was in Beirut, Lebanon. I was boots on the ground. I saw the bullshit, the hell. And I'm supposed to talk to Ryan. I'm going to have a one-on-one with Ryan, what I saw firsthand and heard firsthand, saw it when I was in Beirut. But what he said, now listen, he had 12.
Which Ryan?
12.
Which Ryan?
Yeah, 12.
Ryan Dawson.
What's that?
Sorry, you said that you're going to speak to Ryan. What do you mean?
No, Ryan and I are going to get together, and I'm going to talk to him about Beirut, Lebanon. That was before the internet, and Sully, I'll send you something on that. That's before the internet. We don't have today. Everything is known within seconds around the world, but stuff that happened in Beirut.
Okay, I'm testing to make sure
you don't talk about it. Okay,
Bethany, let me know if you guys can hear me.
But Ryan had 12 combat tours, sir. And 12 combat tours, and I know I'm familiar with 3 of those, and I had skin in the game. My son was there. I'm not allowed to talk about the other issues here. I'm not at liberty to talk about it, but I've spent hours talking to him and the deprogramming about. I'm not at liberty to talk about it, but what he said. Now listen carefully. Colonel Aguilar said 12 combat tours.
Muted, so you shouldn't be able to hear anybody.
Nothing could compare to Gaza. Nothing could compare to what he saw in Gaza. Now that man is a man's man. I couldn't even shine his boots.
So you're still hearing me
He said that he will never forget.
Right?
That jacked his head up. Gaza jacked his head up. Are we listening to what he said? It jacked his head up, and he had 12 combat tours that pale in comparison. And it just real quick, Howie. My heart breaks for you, buddy. Please go read Shlomo Sand's book.
Let me know now. I've just muted it in the system. Let me know if that did it. Can you hear only me and not the screen or the people talking in the deal? Okay. So I was just, Bethany, thanks. I was muting the wrong thing. Okay. Let's move on. All right, great. So I'm going to replace this with, we're going to go to Telegram. All right. I think we got it figured out. Perfect. Okay. Let's go to some of the things I saved here that's been going on throughout the week. Okay. Let's do some housekeeping stuff. If you wouldn't mind, please be sure to share the stream. If you don't mind, if you are not subscribed, please be sure to do so. Obviously, click that like button. And then also visit DennisHendrickson.com. So it's www.DennisHendrickson.com. That's our home base where everything is going to be located. So if I write an article once a week, that's going to be there. You can join for free and become a member, and you'll know when we're going to go live and when there's new content. And this here is the Telegram channel. It's at D Hendrickson. So if you're on Telegram, follow me there. I don't have too many followers on Telegram. Haven't needed to, because I still have a YouTube channel for some reason. I hope that stays that way, but you never know. But yeah, check us out there. And so the X space, once again, I'll repeat myself. So that X space, if you're not familiar with X spaces, is a place for people to kind of get together and host a audio only. I mean, there's going to be video at some point with it, but an audio only space where people get to talk about certain topics. It grew in popularity, I think, during the last presidential election. Elon Musk, when he was supporting Ron DeSantis, had a space with him on there when he was supporting him originally before he switched over to Donald Trump, which made it a bit more expedient for him to do so, and didn't do all that well. The space kept crashing and things like that because there's a lot of stuff to work out, and they don't seem to be doing a very good job of making improvements to the space. But it's a great place to kind of get together and discuss certain topics and things like that. Now, there's certain people that have gotten very popular on it, like Suleiman. Mario Nawfal is another one. They used to do the spaces together. And Suleiman, I'm lucky enough to have been invited by him to be on the Monday through Friday morning 9 a.m. spaces Eastern time to discuss things that are going on in the economy, some geopolitics and how they're tied to the economy, the financial markets and things like that. My background is commercial real estate, so I'll spend some time in there. You know, you're not talking all the time because there's a lot of really smart people in there. Like I said, a few of them are actual billionaires, and some are have given multiple TED Talks, so they're very well respected in their fields. And so to be invited to be able to be on there is huge. So if you are on X, please not only follow me, but then also be sure to follow us and kind of be aware of those X spaces that are going to happen on Monday mornings, Monday through Friday. Okay, so let's get into some of the things we talked about. Let me just check to make sure we're still running live here. I'm running this is the first time on TikTok. I've actually been uploading quite a bit to TikTok, and never really thought that it was going to be much of anything, but it's been pretty good. So I decided what I was going to do is run a live stream on TikTok tonight as a test to see how it works. And I don't think my sound effects work. So let me, Bethany, pay attention to this. I'm going to see if this works. Let me know if you can hear that. Or anybody for that matter. I use OBS primarily, but I'm trying this Restream. It's a lot easier for me to just simply, kind of run and gun it, because OBS, there's just so many things. Okay, you can't hear it, so I'll have to figure that whole thing out with sound effects and stuff like that. But anywho, so those of you that are here, again, I appreciate it. Lucky, thank you. And all right, let's get into some of the deals. So one of the things that we talked about this week was the administration signed an executive order to allow private investor, basically personal investors, people like you and me, to put cryptocurrency, commercial real estate, and other alternative investments into our 401ks. So a lot is happening right now with cryptocurrency. I am a huge proponent of Bitcoin and huge proponent of gold and silver. And the reason that I am a huge proponent of all of those things is because it is not as easily manipulated by the government and other factors like BlackRock, Blackstone, Vanguard, State Street. that, and plus it's not a corporation or that can be manipulated by some nitwit CEO that decides they want to take the company into LGBTQ land or do just some, Disney ridiculous thing where, they decided that they're going to, everybody that's white, they're going to turn to black, all the different things that they decided that they're going to do with the movies. And then your investment just goes to shit because of these nitwit CEOs. So I like Bitcoin, I like gold and silver because they can't control that. Bitcoin, especially because it is more portable, obviously, than gold and silver. And if you have it in self-custody, it cannot be manipulated at all by any sort of financial institution. But the executive order that was signed by Trump is getting into cryptocurrency, which is sort of leading to a CBDC, central bank digital currency, which still will be, it's tied to the dollar 1-to-1. What that means is that there's still control. It can be shut down by the government if they don't like what you say. It's still tied to the dollar, but Bitcoin is sort of where it is on its own and cannot be controlled if you have it in self-custody, cannot be controlled by a government. That's why right now Bitcoin is doing so well. But let me play this quick clip from the SEC. I think this is SEC chair. I'm not really sure who she is, but talking about the opening of crypto into the general public, into their 401ks. Hopefully it'll work, because right now Telegram hasn't been really working very well. Let me try and refresh this.
Thinking about ways that we can get them access in a way that's diversified, professionally managed, and
Let me rewind that because I had it
Let's
muted.
talk a little bit about that EO. So it instructs the Department of Labor and the SEC to adjust their rules and regulations to allow those retirement accounts to invest in private assets, to invest in crypto, or at least to allow it. How will the SEC approach this? What does that checklist look like?
Katie, it's great to be here. I think we've already started that process of opening the private markets to retail and thinking about ways that we can get them access in a way that's diversified, professionally managed, and consistent with their investing timeframes. And so I think we'll just continue with that work.
Appreciate that context. So as we continue on and as you approach this, talk us through some of the potential risks that you're thinking about, because certainly a lot of folks on Wall Street and elsewhere have been anticipating these rule changes, but there's also a lot of concern too about putting what are risky assets in retirement accounts.
Yes, I mean, I think those are legitimate concerns. What we've seen, of course, is that the public markets are dominated by several large companies, and also companies are waiting longer to go public, and so we're looking for a way for retail to get earlier access to the growth of companies, and so that's really the goal of it.
Okay, so a couple of things here, and this is probably going to be the more boring part of it, and I'll move on quickly, but I think people who are watching need to understand something. You need to pay attention to who's running your 401k, because a lot of you probably don't have control over it. You have some sort of person that's running your retirement, things like that. And if that's the case, then they may end up taking your money and investing it in these things. One of the things that concerns me, being in the commercial real estate arena is that office space is in trouble. As we know, after the pandemic, that a lot of people were working from home, so a lot of people moved from the office and started working from home. Well, that pretty much crushed office space. And so those landlords, those people that own that property are in serious trouble because they're not getting rent, and they may still have a loan on that property and they're still paying a mortgage. So they have their liabilities, but yet they're not having rent come in. And a lot of these loans are coming due to where they either have to refinance, pay them off, et cetera. And that's a bad thing. So one of the things that is allowed into these investments is commercial real estate. And the problem with that is that there's a lot of these real estate investment trusts, et cetera, that have these toxic assets, for the lack of a better word, on their balance sheet, and they want to unload it onto people like you. And you might not even know that they're doing that. And so if they take these toxic assets and they put them on, have you invest in them, it injects liquidity into their investment that keeps them going. It gets more investment money into their coffers, which allows them to continue to pay mortgages that may, if they're lucky, they, might give them some extra time. But the way things are going with office space and things are happening in the economy, it may not carry them long enough. And so if it goes down and under, you guys get left holding the bag. And so that's the scary thing about this. This is the thing that, we have to be careful of. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to play this, is because, this is not necessarily a good thing. Oh yeah, look at how wonderful. Now you can invest in crypto and commercial real estate in your 401k. Well, there's a reason why I didn't have that stuff before. Now, if you were able to invest in crypto like Bitcoin and not some shit coin, that's one thing. But, crypto is very complicated. Doesn't have to be. But Bitcoin, as far as I'm concerned, and gold and silver are the most simplistic forms of alternative assets you need to know. And you can learn more about gold. You can go to DennisLovesGold.com and download free information about that and learn more about it. And with Bitcoin, if you want to learn more about that, just message me and let me know, and I can get you information on that as well. For those who want to learn about that, because it definitely, having Bitcoin and self-custody is extremely important. That's the most important thing with the cryptocurrency. The other cryptocurrencies you cannot have necessarily in your own coffers, where it cannot be controlled by somebody else. That's the important part of Bitcoin. Clapper.
DNI Tulsi Gabbard just blew the lid off of Russiagate again. Now there's more proof that Obama's top intel chiefs cooked up the hoax. Brand new emails from December of 2016 show former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper personally ordered his team to, quote, compromise the normal review process. Then they rushed the report out to damage.
As by the way, all these volumes are going to be different. So just let me know in the chat if it's too high, too low, and I'll adjust everything. And again, I apologize if it is. I'm trying to learn this new system and make sure that the volume is consistent.
Damage Trump. But not everyone in the intelligence community was buying it. Then NSA Director Mike Rogers flat out told them his team didn't have enough evidence to back the claims. But Clapper didn't care. He shut Rogers down, replying, quote, "This is our story. We're sticking to it." Now, the paper trail is undeniable. The question is, will anyone ever be held accountable? DNI Tulsi Gabbard just blew the lid off of Russiagate again.
So this particular story, we're probably going to be jumping around to a lot of different stories and kind of coming back, because this stuff is sort of random. But so this Russiagate story, I've done a couple of videos on these deals with if you go back to the New York Post, the cover of the New York Post that had 25 people that signed a letter that said that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian collusion or Russian disinformation. All of these people in intelligence during the Biden administration, and also during Trump's first presidency, everything that these guys were doing, they were trying to derail him. They were doing everything they could to push this Russiagate story. And we all know now, beyond any reasonable doubt, that the Russia collusion story is a hoax. Now, the thing about it is that, okay, now that we know that, then what? Barring any of the trials and anything that Trump had to endure when he announced for his second term, that he was going to run for a second term, barring any of that type of stuff. So these people need to be investigated. They need to be punished for what they did, because it's now coming out that a lot of this stuff was not only made up, but it was continuously pushed. And until people end up paying the price and getting punished for it, it's going to continue. So we'll hope that that things happen to these guys.
Another. Oh boy. Okay. Right-wing YouTuber Benny Johnson. Let's do this.
Nancy Pelosi has attacked the president for deploying the National Guard to the city, saying that it is to cover for his incompetence. Hillary Clinton has also attacked the president for securing the city of Washington, D.C. I'd like to get your response, follow-up to that. Given the heroic actions of a member of this administration just a few blocks from this building, will the president consider giving the Presidential Medal of Freedom to Big Balls?
Well, Benny, I have to hand it to you. That didn't disappoint with the insanity of that question. But first off, Nancy Pelosi is right. The deployment of the National Guard is definitely not about actually lowering the crime rate. That has been going down. It's about changing the subject.
That's not true. The crime rate is not going down. DC claims it's down 26%. What they don't tell you is that they don't report the right numbers to the federal government. This has been going on for years now. The biggest cities, Chicago, LA, DC, etc., have never in the last 3 to 5 years reported proper numbers, because they claim that they have not been able to upgrade to the new federal system in order to properly report those numbers. So they have been grossly underreported, and DC is one of those. So for them to tell you, and we all know by anecdotal evidence that crime is at its worst than it's ever been, and you see just time and time again all the violence, everything that's going on. So this is a complete lie, completely disingenuous, and coming from Jen Psaki, not a surprise.
It's about normalizing military in the streets. It's about a lot of things. As for big balls, which I can't believe we have to say on a TV show, but here we are in 2025. What happened to him was horrible, and I wish him a speedy recovery. Everybody should. But the people who typically receive the Medal of Freedom have decades of public service or storied careers under their belts. They aren't a 19-year-old software engineer. So I don't see how he would make the nomination list. But then again, this is the Donald Trump presidency, so who knows?
So, of course, they have to downplay what Big Balls did. If you don't know who Big Balls is, he was a programmer, or is a programmer for Doge. He was made famous because of, I guess, his nickname was Big Balls, and found a tremendous amount of government waste spending in the Doge project. And, of course, people like Jen Psaki, who is a scumbag, is going to downplay that and make him seem as if he's, a nobody. But fast forward to recently, last week or the week before, he foiled a carjacking and was brutally beaten and bloodied, and became famous once again for being a hero twice. Now, Benny Johnson has his own problems, and I can go into the weeds on this whole thing. Benny Johnson actually wrote for the Daily Beast, was a leftist at one point, kind of like this. I'm going to mention this conservative Inc. stuff because I am a Nick Fuentes fan, America First fan. I am not a Tucker Carlson fan. I am not a fan of people like Benny Johnson, Candace Owens, and the like. Benny Johnson is popular only because he gets paid by certain people to toe a certain line. And that's, I guess, for a different story. So I won't go off on a tangent on that, but not a big fan of that guy. All right, listen to this.
Do you think D.C. is dangerous?
No. Any city in this country, even in Little Frederick, you don't maybe go out at 2 a.m., there could be problems. But overall, this city is a beautiful city. It's a disgrace. The National Guard should be not here. It should not be employed. This is wrong. Wrong.
So D.C. is the most dangerous city.
It's not the most dangerous city.
It's the fourth most dangerous in the country.
It's not dangerous, but don't go out late at night because it's dangerous.
Homicides.
He's going to cut this off on his.
We're rolling live. We do long shoots.
Yeah. You're doing live. He's going to cut this up.
So what's your reaction to that?
Well, all I can say, numbers are whatever you want to make it. D.C., you can say is the fourth dangerous, but you know what? It's the first beautiful. It is our capital.
It is beautiful. I agree with you on that.
It's beautiful and it's safe.
Okay.
I'm here at night.
It's 6 times more dangerous than New York City.
Yeah, there's a quadruple murder
you know what?
in Missoula, but Montana Friday. Are you going to federalize Montana?
If the federalization of the city works and drives down homicides, will you admit that it was a good idea?
No,
I won't, because you don't have any libertarian impulses anymore, I guess. 10 years ago, Obama was going to come and get your guns, and you were freaked the out.
Who are you?
But now,
if it works, will you change your mind?
Authoritarian. What works is democratic rule. What works is self-determination, home rule.
Please identify yourself.
I'm Matt Miller with Political. I'm the editor-in-chief of Political. Thank you, sir.
Conservative or liberal?
I'm a journalist. I'm just asking questions.
I want to make sure that none of my comments.
As if that matters. The truth doesn't matter. It just comes down to whether or not you're conservative or liberal. This is the problem right now. And the reason I wanted to show this particular video was because it's not the politicians' fault. You can't blame the politicians. They run. It's the people like this that vote for those politicians. And then says to you, when this guy says, is DC one of the most dangerous cities or areas in the country? She says, no. It's beautiful, but don't go out at night. Now, there's countries on this planet that you can go out at night. And by the way, I just heard from an expat who lives in Vietnam, I think it's Da Nang, and said you can go out to the ATM at 3 a.m. and not have to worry about getting robbed. I mean, when you think of Vietnam, I think of Vietnam War, I think of all the crazy stuff. But in these areas in Asia, Philippines, Vietnam, all these places, people are leaving the United States. Young men especially are leaving the United States and moving to these areas for a number of different reasons. Relationships, but then also crime, and then also being able to live a decent life without having to spend, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 a month just to live. But more importantly, the point of this particular clip is you have this person who's a lunatic, okay, belongs in a padded room, is telling you that everything is fine. Don't go out at night because it's not dangerous. These are the people that vote for Bowser and Smith. These are the people that are running DC. Bowser, the mayor, and Smith, the chief of police. The chief of police, who when asked, what is the chain of command, she said, what does that mean?
Are construed as agreeing with anything to do with the National Guard being.
Obama was going to come and get your guns, and you were freaked the f out.
Who are you, by
But
the way?
now,
If it works, will you change your mind?
Authoritarian.
Excuse
What
me,
works
please identify
is democratic
yourself.
rule. What works is
Please identify
self-determination,
yourself.
home rule.
Please
We have
identify
I'm Matt Miller with Political. I'm the editor-in-chief of
Please
Political. Thank you, sir.
conservative or liberal.
I'm a journalist. I'm just asking questions.
I want to make sure that none of my comments are construed as agreeing with anything to do
on top of
with
it, they're
the
stupid.
National Guard being here.
No.
I have nothing to.
We're going to represent what you said. What have I asked you so far? DC is the fourth most dangerous. That's true. That's a fact, right?
I don't
It
know
is.
that. I would like to
Homicides.
see the statistics. Well, give me the statistics on a piece of paper.
Now, if you're out protesting, let me ask you, the people that are watching, if you're out protesting for something, would you not have a reasonable amount of knowledge of what it is that you're protesting? If you're going out and you're saying that everything is great in DC, we don't need to have Trump federalizing the police, would you not have some statistics and facts behind what it is that you're protesting? None of these motherfuckers do, ever. They never do. And then when they're asked a question, they go, I don't want to talk to you. They walk away, or they get violent, or they say, I don't want to be misconstrued, or show me the proof. That's not my job. That's the burden of proof is not on me. You're the one that's out here protesting.
Paper first, and then I'll agree with you.
27 homicides per 100,000 residents.
DC got more homicides than
anybody else.
There you go. That guy just said it. DC has more murders than anybody else. All right, PPI numbers came out today.
Up to March of 22, since we've had a number of that magnitude when it was 1.2%. These are kind of COVID distorted numbers. Now, let's look at ex-food, energy, and trade. Triple the expectations. All three of those were expected to be up 0.2. This is up 0.6. 0.6 would be the highest level since March of 22 when it was 0.9. Now, let's go year over year. These are warm too. 3.7, excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself. Final demand year over year is 3.3. We're expecting 2.5. Now 3.3, that would be the highest since February. The high water mark was January this year at 3.
Okay, that's boring. Anyway, PPI went up. So things are getting more expensive. We may end up actually having a rate hike, interest rate hike, not an interest rate cut. I think everybody was hoping for an interest rate cut to make things cheaper on all of us as normal, taxpayer people. But seemingly that's not going to happen. We may actually have an interest rate increase because that essentially means PPI increase, that inflation is going up again. Can't win, people. All right, let's talk about Trump meeting with Putin in Alaska.
They're going to make a deal, but he cautions he doesn't know if they'll get an immediate ceasefire. So I'm not exactly sure what that deal would be, but the president's not showing all of his cards. He says he's talking already about a follow-up meeting with Zelensky, said they've got 3 possible places in mind for that. He says he doesn't know if the press conference will be a joint press conference with Putin, but regardless, you will hear from him. He will do a press conference after that meeting tomorrow that starts at 3 o'clock Eastern.
So Brian also asked him about the threat of sanctions, and apparently the president said the threat of sanctions against Russia probably played a role in Putin's decision to seek the meeting in Alaska. Asked about the economic incentives for the Putin meeting, would rather not say, he told Brian. With regard to economic incentives, he said sanctions are very powerful, saying he'll call Zelensky for a second meeting. And as you mentioned, Dana, 3 possible locations for a follow-up meeting. So none of this we know, and we're really waiting to see the outcome of their meeting.
So Brian Kilmeade getting all of that on his radio show. It was interesting this morning.
So what do you guys think? Do you think that the war is coming to an end? Or do you think that that this will continue? Curious to hear from you guys. Okay, let's hear. This one kind of pissed me off because I don't like Joe Rogan.
all of a sudden these like pop-up riots. I actually call them the Timu riots. Like, this is a Chinese funded group, and what they're doing is they're using that front in an effort to then divide on that topic as well.
I absolutely believe this is true, that I'm sure other countries fund similar things, but also it was in reaction to some of the ICE raids and pulling people out of schools and pulling people out of Home Depot. When people thought about ICE, they thought, great, we're going to get rid of the gang members. They didn't think, great, you're going to get rid of a landscaper.
No, I think we were looking, a lot of voters, the mandate was all about removing everybody that was here illegally. So it's naive to say, not the landscapers, only the people that were, whatever you said, breaking the law. But you break the law when you come here illegally, period.
Oh, when people thought about ICE, they thought, great, we're going to get rid of the gang members. They didn't think, great, you're going to get rid of a landscaper.
No, it was everybody. So I don't know. This once again is, here you have Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's a dumbass. I can't stand Joe Rogan. He's just a typical liberal, typical guy who worked for NBC, Hollywood guy. And just simply because he had Hollywood connections with NBC and everything else, his podcast got huge. This guy's completely fucking clueless. And no, the mandate was everybody. Okay, everybody, not just gang members. Because when you enter the country illegally, you are a criminal. It doesn't matter what anybody says. You are a criminal when you enter illegally.
To get the best person, we got a man that you'll hear in a second has done an amazing job.
Is the volume
with respect to Social Security. He's running it, and he's running it like nobody ever even dreamt possible. And it's the 90th anniversary right now of Social Security. So today we celebrate that 90th anniversary of one of the most significant pieces of legislation ever signed into law, the Social Security Act of 1935, and we're going to make it stronger, bigger and better, really doing a job. In the campaign, I made a secret pledge to our seniors that I would always protect Social Security, and under this administration, we're keeping that promise and strengthening Social Security for generations to come. You keep hearing stories that in 6 years, 7 years, Social Security will be gone, and it will be if the Democrats ever get involved, because they don't know what they're doing. But it's going to be around a long time with us. Very much, you'll be surprised to hear some of the numbers. I'm delighted to be joined by the Commissioner of the Social Security Administration, Frank Bisignano, who in the world of business, in fact, I wrote some of the little things down that he's had an amazing, he was Chief Operating Officer of J.P. Morgan Chase. He worked for Jamie Dimon. And Jamie Dimon said that he was amazing. So think of that, Chief Operating Officer, J.P. Morgan Chase, had a storied career. Then he went to First Data. For those in the business, you'd know it's the largest payment company anywhere in the world. And worked for Henry Kravis, and it was in big trouble. He took it over as CEO. He made it incredible. They merged with Fiserv, and he became CEO of that, and that became extremely successful. I was in Milwaukee. I guess they have the Milwaukee Arena, and where we had some good success and some good speeches. But he's a really legendary guy, and he wanted to do this. I mean, he just wanted to straighten out Social Security because he loves our country. And what he's done in a few months is amazing. Almost 60 million American seniors rely on Social Security for peace of mind and a life of dignity and retirement. These Americans paid into the system, and they deserve leaders in Washington who are going to protect the benefits they've had and protect Social Security. Under Biden, Social Security went down like nobody's ever seen it.
All right, that's boring. Poll, does anybody want to go back to the X space? I think we should do that and check in, because we have some X people here. We've got a lot of X people here. I say we go into that and see what's going on. let's dip into the X space. Let's see what's up.
Kitty.
Serious situation that's going on. So we'll try to get more information for you guys, but that's what we've got so far. I don't find any direct correlation between him being paid by UGH, but it seems like he does have, from that conversation. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping. Sorry, I kind of lumped that in there. But is he actually getting paid by UGS? Is Retardio being paid in some way by UGS, not necessarily as an employee, but is he getting compensation for his testimony,
Here we
for his
go. This guy
podcast or
loves to
stuff
hear
like
himself
that?
talk. This
I
fucking
don't
guy.
find anything exactly concretely about that, but if you listen closely to his podcast, he clearly is communicating with people from within the organization that are giving him information to put out to his audience. So perhaps, perhaps he does have some kind of like NDA or I don't know, like some kind of agreement and they are compensating him. But yeah, it would be good to get some more solid proof. But you see the behavior, guys, right? Like this is someone who justifies killing children, someone who tries to defend. He sees an unfortunate uh, scan and it's multiple. It's multiple children. Those are all those scans. Those are different scans. Multiple kids with bullets in their head decides to use his prowess to discredit that. And we know it happens, guys. We know it absolutely does happen. So it's just one of those situations. But that's what I got so far, Sully. I'll try to get more. On the Alex Jones thing, I just wanted to put this out there. Rex Jones, Alex Jones' son, was in a space this past weekend,
Okay, I
and he
can go
kind of
to
talked
this.
about this a little bit. They want to actually take Alex's name. All right, not only do they want his brand and his channel, they also want to actually take his name, and that includes the logo, that includes the
Which is
shop, that
against the
includes
Constitution.
his videos and books, all of that stuff. And the defense there, and Sully's also correct saying he moved everything to the Alex Jones show instead of Infowars, because Infowars is who got sued. Because it's like under some slavery act or something like that, it's illegal to take ownership over somebody else's name, like something to that extent. But Sully, if we could potentially reach out to Rex, I know this is a really sore topic, but from what I heard him say this past week is that essentially his family has been destroyed, like absolutely torn apart for over a decade. Alex is having to go to court twice a week, right, dealing with this thing. And it's like I understand they try to make whole these unfortunate families. By the way, the bodies being stacked up, not to get into it, but that was the police report. That's not what that wasn't the defamation. The defamation was him saying that no kids died. But yeah, in the police report it says that there was no blood and so I don't know, maybe if we could get Rex on here at some point, he could probably clear some of this stuff up, but I could tell just listening to him last week, they're trying to make these other families whole, and in the process they've completely destroyed Alex's family, and that includes his parents and his kids. And it came down to when he was getting divorced, his ex-wife basically told those lawyers that Alex had a lot of money, and there you go, he's on the hook for over $1 billion at this point. So
This guy just really doesn't shut the fuck up.
I don't
So
know.
I've just checked his son. He's not got his DMs open, so it's gonna be hard to invite him.
You know
One
who can
thing,
who can do it? Keith. We can get in touch. Well, I'll message you, but it would. I think if you would be willing, Rex would be a really great ad. I know you already have a lot of guests, but just putting it out there.
yeah, sure, I don't mind, because Alex Jones is scared of me. He's scared to have me on, so I'll just like destroy his son if you want. Because the issue is this. My issue with Alex Jones is this: like, if he's a fair guy, he will platform someone who actually disagrees with him. Now, the reason he platforms like Nick is because they largely agree, and Nick's like, when it comes to those type of interviews, Nick's not very combative. Now with Alex Jones, let's be clear on this. He has significant links, which is the same arguments that Nick, and by the way, I agree with a lot of what Nick's arguing about. For example, a lot of the arguments people are making about connections to JD Vance. Well, Alex Jones is someone who's promoted JD Vance a lot. Alex Jones is someone who has a lot of these connections, and I've been looking into him quite a bit. And he's someone who intentionally won't platform someone like me because I'll push back A, against this, B, against his Zionist propaganda that he's perpetuating, and third thing is the attacks on Muslims that he perpetuates as well, which is also part of the Zionist propaganda. So someone like Alex Jones is quite clearly part of that whole JD Vance, Palantir. I had him in once when he was like, "Oh, Palantir's so tiny, like it doesn't have
Very
that much
true.
impact." So he's someone who's clearly minimizing all those things. He's clearly afraid. He clearly doesn't want. He won't platform someone really who can actually push back on him, like me. And so yeah, if it means bringing his son on and just like asking him those questions, then that'll be brilliant. I'll do that because someone needs to really do that with Alex Jones because Alex Jones literally lives in his own echo chamber. He only platforms people who either agree with him or just won't really push back on him. So in reality, like I will do that. So that's the reason one platform is. So yeah, I'm more than willing to have him in
and
space.
Rex got a lot of this in the space as well too, right? People confronted him on this as well. I think Lebanon John was in there. You might be familiar. Not to speak for him, and hopefully he can get on to kind of speak his own opinion. But the sense I got is he's a very different person from Alex. And what's
All right, I'm in
crazy,
the
just to add
speaker,
this on the
guys.
JD Vance thing, is somehow Alex knew ahead of time that JD Vance was going to be the pick for VP. And I just want to throw that out there, right? And they can tell you guys Palantir is a small thing, but they
Yeah,
did the
just
same.
on that, I heard that clip, right? So, and then Nick just played it down as, oh, maybe they were just saying it to get it out of there, which is possible. But I think what's more possible is that once again, JD Vance and Alex Jones is promoting him. He was given inside information by JD Vance to Alex Jones. Alex Jones is someone who promotes JD Vance. He minimizes the control and impact that Palantir has. We've been exposing on these spaces the level of impact Palantir has, not just Palantir linked organizations. Simon, I don't know if you're there, but Simon also speaks about from the financial perspective about Palantir. So we've gone deep into Palantir. We've gone detailed into that. Alex Jones tries to minimize that. Alex Jones tries to hide that. Alex Jones promotes JD Vance, promotes him like significantly. And that's something everyone's been doing, is really promoting JD Vance as that guy. Elon Musk very much loves JD Vance. He's going to be definitely back on the JD Vance. The whole Republican Party wants JD Vance as the leader. So like all of this is very much connected, and Alex Jones is very much a proponent and perpetuator of that. So yeah, definitely we should have that conversation.
Yeah, it's impossible. It's absolutely impossible to be an exposer of the deep state and globalists and minimize Palantir. Like that's completely nobody does that. That like Palantir is as important as any company to be
Guys,
looking into.
Palantir is the end game. Like he made all those documentaries called Endgame. Palantir is the end game. These are AI-driven decision-making systems that are going to be essentially vouched and approved by the government to make real-life decisions about how things go in our country, in your life, whether or not you can buy things, whether or not you can have insurance. That's why, look, they did the same thing with Palantir as they did with the primes, right? The military defense contractors, Lockheed. I know you guys talk about this stuff all the time too, but they did a very similar thing under Palantir as well. You can imagine these guys are kind of like the tech wizards. The government has a bunch of these dark budget, like, black intel projects, and they conglomerated them under the brand of Palantir. And Simon's telling you guys it's up 600%. Well, they just increased the government deficit from 1.5 to $5 trillion. That's where that money is coming from. If you think it's a lot of really savvy investors, I don't know about that, but they just got an unlimited budget to put all of these things into use, and that is the end game. We're so concerned about these people like a Kissinger type or something, right? that's all going to be automated, and the company that's rolling that out with the full-fledged support and approval is going to be the government of the United States of America. I'm a never Vance, Sully. I'm with Nick on this one. I'm a never Vance.
Yeah. Look, listen, I'm not American, but I'm very much on the same page. I think I just wrote a W on Dr. Anna's tweet about Vance, like very much in agreement by that. I think Vance is exponentially worse than Trump. What if Vance wins? I'm fear for the world. Like, just think about those 4 to 8 years. We're going to be in mass surveillance. I'm going to say I mean, like Britain will be in even worse situation, right? Simon quite accurately relays that we're always the testing ground, but we'll be in mass surveillance, man's control. Everything will be handed over to big tech corporations, AI companies. It will literally be over definitely for working class people in Britain and America. And when you think about how badly people are struggling now, times are by a million then, things are going to be really, really bad. You're going to have no rights, no freedoms, no privacy. And I mean, you think now you don't have privacy, and they've conditioned your mind into thinking this. This is important. It's true that there is surveillance there is surveillance on us. It's true that we don't have privacy. But let me be clear on this. We still have some form of privacy. We still have some form of individuality. When Palantir, JD Vance takes over, we will lose everything. We will be just have no privacy, have no rights, be completely controlled. Think about it, and the reason why they've already manufactured consent in a way is because I speak to some average person and they're like, oh yeah, but they're already surveilling us, they're already controlling us, and it's like, yes, they are, but it's not to the level of what's going to be. Like, you will have no freedom whatsoever. So this is my biggest I mean, this is it. So when you say you're a never JD Vancer, I'm on the same page on that. But I do think like Alex Jones is someone who is not. So that's just something I wanted to mention.
Yeah, and when you start to dig through this stuff, how do we get to this stage? You could see that it all started out under Trump in his first presidency. It is very much unlike any government to be on the bleeding edge of technology. That is not typical. Typically, the government is behind. They want to make sure things work, right? Because if not, you implement this stuff, you're gonna have complete chaos. And that's the thing. We're no longer optimizing for what makes a nation work well. We're optimizing for business. We're treating this as a
more on that.
corporation.
Sorry, because I just remembered this. Sorry, I'm interrupting you, Trillian, because I'm gonna give it straight back to you.
Trillian's gonna try and
But
take over this entire
he's
space.
the same arguments made against Tucker Carlson are the very same arguments against Alex Jones. And I would say over these 2 years, Alex Jones has been more of a subverter than anything you can lay claim about Tucker Carlson. Alex Jones's parents are intelligence, right? Alex Jones is married to a Jewish woman. And now I know he's divorced, but now Alex Jones's children are Jewish. So even this guy Rex, he's Jewish, right? Trillian, the one you want me on this one on the space.
I believe so, because that would have been from that wife, right? So
exactly.
Yeah, because he's older now. You think he's like just in his early 20s, I believe, at this point. Yeah,
Yeah,
so correct.
He's like bolder, so yeah, he's probably like quite old. He's when you look at the radio show that he's got, that he's always had deals with, all of them are from like Jewish Zionist guys. If and that means either Sirius Radio or KLBJ. Like, I was looking into him quite deeply the last day or two, I'll be honest with you, because I was like, this, like, what is going on? Like, I don't get why, like, Tucker Carlson's been attacked and like Alex Jones is much worse. And remember, everyone was pushing back against him because after October the 7th, he was pushing the Zionist propaganda. Over the last few months, maybe slightly longer, he realized that it's not working. He was always the guy who was meant to be the dissident, and now he's part of the mainstream position, and people are a lot more dissident than him. That's why he realigned his position. And then he's been getting Nick Fuentes on because he knows that's a smart move that'll kind of legitimize him. But those moves don't work on me. Like, that's irrelevant to me. What's relevant to me is your actions and what you do. So he's very much connected to intelligence. His parents are were intelligence. His uncle was CIA. His cousin was like his whole family's intelligence. Like his cousin, his uncle, his parents are linked to CIA or employed by CIA. It's like, okay, Alex Jones may not be, but I mean, there's question marks on that. So yeah, those are it. And then if you look at his kind of wealth, his finances, his financiers, those who have given him deals and contracts, like, look, there's a lot there.
Yeah, and this has become kind of like a hallmark. Even when we talk about Trump, right? You guys got to remember, Trump was in debt over $2 billion at some point. He was wrecked beyond wrecked. And then all of a sudden, something happens and he turns into this titan of industry that he has become now, the two-time president of the United States. The guy basically was a giant flop. 2 billion, nobody's been in debt that bad, right? And that was Trump, 4 bankruptcies. And then so you figure what changed? And so I don't know if you caught this today, Sully. You're probably getting ready for the show. But Nick goes on with Tate and Myron, right? And to talk about the Candace and all that. And Nick calls it out perfectly, and I think it applies to this situation as well. And what he called them on was coordination, right? He goes like, yeah, any one of these things, Milo or Tucker or Candace or any one of those things on its own might not look suspicious, but when it all happens together, it looks like coordination. And like Tate, I don't know if he just like didn't. He seemed like he wasn't really that into. He wasn't following along, or he just made it seem that way. But that's what we see here, guys. Like just like Nick called it out in his situation, we see a lot of coordination, and when we see that, that is not one of those coincidences, as we like to say.
So Trillian, like in the whole Nick versus the rest of the guys thing, I didn't get involved because I'm good with Nick, and yeah, I'm good with Nick. But at the same time, like my rule recently has been like never get involved, because what happens is everyone fights and then they become friends again, and therefore it's not smart to do so. Like Sneeko and Nick fighted, now they're friends again, and luckily I didn't get involved in that situation. I stayed neutral because I was good with both of them. And even Nick said on that show, I didn't listen to it until I started the space. Nick literally said, "Oh, if Tucker Carlson gives me a chance, I'll be good with him." So again, like a lot of people attacking him, it does seem like I don't like to get involved in that situation. But in terms of coordination, I actually don't think there was coordination in the sense of to take Nick out. I think Tucker Carlson took advantage of the situation to do so, if that makes sense. So I think there was this kind of disagreement between Candace and Nick, and then Tucker Carlson took that opportunity to try and take Nick out. I think Candace's interview of Milo was more like she was just annoyed with him, and she knew that by doing that would annoy Nick, if that makes sense, as opposed to some kind of coordination. And my only and yeah, so largely I would say I agree with Nick in the sense of about this JD Vance situation and various other people. Like Joe Kent. Joe Kent was in that Signal group where they were coordinating the attack on Iran. Was it not? It wasn't on Iran. It was on the Yemeni Houthis. So I agree with his question mark even on those. I disagree with Nick where he promotes Alex Jones and says, "Oh, he's a real one, he's legit," because I think the same question marks Nick has about Tucker Carlson is the same ones that we have about Alex Jones, and so therefore it is like you know what I mean. It shouldn't be just about who platforms you or whatever it may be. So that is the only bit that I disagree with Nick on, but the rest of it I largely agree with him on in terms of JD Vance, Palantir, like none of these things should be minimized. And when the Groypers do go against JD Vance, I think that's going to be really important that many people support them, because this is literally going to be, I'm not exaggerating when I say this, this could be like the freedom of humanity on the line. Like that's how bad I think it is with JD, if JD Vance was to win.
Sully, can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah. When you look at Tucker Carlson, his father being tied in with the CIA, these guys go all the way back to William F. Buckley Jr. and Irving Kristol. So the Skull and Bones, Yale University being recruited into the CIA by professors at Yale. So these guys have a long history of generational intelligence ties. So it's interesting to me to see how Alex Jones is now bringing on Nick Fuentes quite frequently onto his show, because he knows that if he doesn't, he's not going to look good. And to me, I think it's just blatantly obvious that there's a coordinated attack on him. Candace Owens, when she had him on her podcast, it was an ambush. If you watch that interview, all she did was attack him the entire time. Then all of a sudden, when she had Milo Yiannopoulos on there, they were attacking him there. Same thing with Tucker Carlson saying that he was a gay kid in his basement. And then all of a sudden, when Alex Jones had Nick Fuentes on his show early on, like 6 months ago or more, he would have Nick Fuentes talking. Alex Jones would get up out of his chair and walk and go have a cigarette or a drink or something while Nick Fuentes was talking, completely discounting him, completely disrespecting him. Now, all of a sudden, Nick Fuentes is this guy he's got to have on all the time. So if it wasn't for all of the 1950s and 60s backing of the CIA with Buckley and Crystal, Bill Crystal, who's Irving Kristol's son, is involved in neocon politics. You know, J.D. Vance was under the tutelage of Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel was backed from the guys from back in the days of William Buckley and Irving Kristol. They're all tied in together and all has come back around again. And they're all interconnected. The only one that's not connected with any of these guys is Nick Fuentes.
Thanks for that, Dennis. Zingle, jump in. Like, I also agreed with what's his name again, Nick's point when he said about that there is this kind of Russian objective to basically attack Macron. Like, that's definite. Like, when you look at Russia, one of the things they've always done, and this is why when people are like, why don't you, like, you know, I'm not someone who just supports Russia no matter, I think I've said this on many of my spaces. Like, you can have a disagreement, like, in terms of the Russia-Ukraine war, obviously I do believe it's a US proxy war. Separate to that, I do think that what Russia do is, because they try and benefit Russia, is sow discord in Europe and the UK. And a lot of times they do finance a lot of these far-right anti-Islam parties. And so it makes, and so I agree with him when you look at it, that there is this concerted effort by Russia to attack people like Macron, because again, they see Macron as being more centrist or maybe more, you know, whatever it may be, and they know that by attacking him, pushing more far right anti-Islam parties, you get a more friction and dissension in those countries. It causes havoc in those countries. It causes maybe riots in those countries. And so, yeah, I do think that that happens as well, for sure. So I agree with him on that. And there is a lot more details to it in terms of what I said, in terms of this kind of push off. This is why when people were like if you look at it, a lot of these Name the Jew crew, they were all supporting Le Pen. Le Pen is someone who is a Zionist, is literally anti-Islam, is far right. And like all of these guys were like, oh, we believe Jews are the problem. You know, why do you call it Zionists? And if you look at my disagreement with many of them was on that issue. I didn't support Le Pen at all. I supported anyone who wasn't Le Pen. So I supported the left wing, which was solely because they were pro-Palestine and anti-Israel. But that being said, Le Pen, as an example, I looked at this a while ago. I'll have to find the information, was definitely pro-Israel. I do believe that, again, she was supported. I believe I saw some funding from Russia as well, but I need to look into that. If not, there was some kind of support or whatever it is. So this definitely does happen. And it definitely is these kind of pro-Israel, or if not pro-Israel, definitely anti-Islam parties that are actually financed by them. It's why I had a question against George Gallagher, and then one of his fans like literally got angry with me and like blocked me and went to George Gallagher's account and unfollowed me. Is that he asked me, and he said, why don't you join, because they wanted me to be an MP as part of the Workers' Party. Now, I supported the Workers' Party before the election because they were anti-Zionist, like I wanted them to get votes, but I didn't want to be MP for them. And the reason is because I've got question marks, like I want answers for. Like, I don't just follow someone blindly. That's just not in my nature. I don't care who it is, right? Like, I can agree with people, like I said, I agree with Nick, but I wouldn't blindly follow him. I can agree with anyone on the left wing, right wing. I can agree on someone, but I will never blindly follow someone. I've never done that in religion. I've never done it in politics. I've never done it in any single issue. So my question mark about it was that, wait a sec, like George Galloway, why is it you went on Piers Morgan? That was your chance. Because remember, what they done was mainstream media made sure they didn't platform the Workers' Party at all, the only anti-Zionist party. But someone like Reform and Nigel Farage, they platformed him immediately, and that's how he got so many votes. And so my question mark was that, wait a sec, you went on Piers Morgan, you didn't get a chance to go on mainstream media. That was your opportunity to promote the Workers' Party, and yet you didn't promote the Workers' Party. You didn't mention the Workers' Party. Instead, you mentioned Nigel Farage and how he was not getting a fair shot, even though he was getting more than a fair shot. He was getting more opportunities. And so that got me question marks. And so my genuine question was, like, why was that done? Was that done at the behest of Russia? What was the reason for it? Like, I think these are genuine questions. I'm not attacking him. I just genuinely have questions on that. Like, I ain't gonna join a party. That made his fan base, like, that made one of his fans, who I literally supported because he got an attack by the mainstream media for being anti-Semitic, and I wrote a big thread supporting him. And actually, George Galloway disowned him until he saw me supporting him, and then literally supported him. But that being said, so that guy blocks me, goes to George's account because I think he's got access to it, and unfollows, which is fine. I'm not bothered. Like, I've not mentioned it. This happened like a year and a half ago, maybe. But my question marks was about that. Like, I'm not here to support. I'm not going to be pro-Russia when they're going to cause havoc in the United States of America, United Kingdom. Sorry, I'm not going to support Russia if they do cause havoc in Europe, especially if they're supporting anti-Islam parties where their whole job is to be anti-Islam. So that's, I agree with Nick on that. Is the point I was trying to make, and I do think that that's something you need to look out for. But I've just given you a bit more depth and a bit more breadth on it in terms of a lot of the things that happen. But funny enough, a lot of these guys were supporting these candidates that were promoting, but who were pro-Israel but anti-Islam in Europe. Trillion. Okay, Zingle.
Go ahead, Zingle. Hop in. Yeah. Not sure I can hear Zingle. Can you guys hear him?
No, I can't. Zingle, I can't hear you.
All right. Oh,
Yeah, go.
yeah, he's trying. Maybe you just got a cycle, brother. So yeah, I think guys, they actually had a pretty productive conversation here around, especially today, right? Because it seemed like even Tate was sort of siding against Nick today. And then Sneeko comes on later. I really suggest you guys like listen to at least like some of that debate because it was actually pretty intelligent, right? Myron did a great job, by the way, moderating. I think he would have met like you and Myron. I think have like a really similar take on this stuff, which is kind of stay away from it, right? Like let it, air it out, but stay out of the mix of it. So Myron did a brilliant job kind of navigating this whole thing. He really let the Tate and Nick kind of go back and forth on it. And then Sneeko came on a little bit later once those guys were gone, and they really crystallized this point as well, too, where, basically someone goes out and takes all the arrows. Like, so you took a lot of arrows, right? When you were still doing the shows with not Myron, sorry, Mario and when everything was like still breaking out. And so did Tate. Tate took a lot of arrows. You covered that stuff too. So did Nick. Like that's something that they all have in common. Sneeko did, right? All of these guys that gave up, they were massively censored. They were debanked. They lost financially. They were excoriated. They definitely tried. They were nearly canceled. And now we get to a point, right, where Tate comes back from vacation, like spending time with his kids, doesn't really know the situation, and kind of weighs in on it, which, given all the other things going on between Candace and Tucker, kind of doing that show together and like going after Nick at the same time, it made it seem like, well, now Tate's jumping in too. So the fan base, the Groypers, start going after Tate, right? And I think that it had like an actually good discussion. I think it should be a primer for people to listen to, right? So we want these people to be bold enough, brave enough, especially people with resources, with with a big reach, to be like bold enough to go speak truth to power, right? But over time, it kind of becomes normalized. So some of the things that we were saying, like Sully, you remember this, like when we were first making the arguments that, listen, all of these like rapes and beheading, that none of that happened on October 7th, right? That was so controversial in the beginning, and now it's like, you can kind of get through that, except for with Howie here, who doesn't appear to update his worldview, but like once every 15 years apparently. But for the most part. And so what they're saying is that, like, look, we have to kind of it has you by us being like so demanding that everyone acknowledge everything, like get with like the latest thing.
And no
That
one
it,
has the same opinion. Like, for example,
yeah,
like Nick, like I think he's done such a great job, and he's done it for a very long time, and I would never ever attack him. Like you see me, I've never attacked Nick, and I wouldn't attack any of these guys. But like I disagree with him about October the 7th. He thinks it's like an atrocity. He thinks Hamas are terrorists. He thinks all of those things. I just don't agree with his position on that. And so like you can disagree with someone and yet not have like the same opinion and still not like basically try and cause disagreement or dissension. And similar to Sneeko, like Sneeko, I think has done a great job. And I think he has been attacked. And I would say Sneeko is one of the people on social media who's put on a lot of people. He brought Ryan Dawson back when nobody was promoting him. So Ryan Dawson been banned for a long time. It was actually Sneeko who brought him onto his stream and made him mainstream. And then I was the second person to put him on in terms of spaces. And so, but Sneeko was the main guy. Like Sneeko was like, I did some bit, but he did like I would say the big part where you basically find this guy from obscurity and you bring him back onto the mainstream. And I believe he did that with Nick as well. He connected Nick with so many people in the mainstream. If you look at Nick's recent interview with Bradley Martin, that was Sneeko who organized that, put them in a group chat together. If you look at Nick, actually say Nick, most of the people that Nick got connected to, a lot of them are through Sneeko. Like even my connection through Nick. So when Nick, when he used to come on the spaces, I was directly connected to Nick, Nick. But when I started meeting him and physically, like in person, that was Sneeko who arranged it. And I believe Sneeko is the one who arranged the Fresh and Fair. I think Sneeko's been a big part of arranging a lot of the normalization of Nick as well. And so, like, I don't agree with a lot of people who attack him as well because he's actually helped a lot of people, put a lot of people on, and brought him to the mainstream.
Yeah, man, I gotta say, like that little post op that he did with Myron. If you guys haven't heard Sneeko in a little while, definitely check that one out, right? Especially if you might not be the biggest Sneeko fan yet, because he's based, like he is telling people like the reality, like having lived through all this stuff. Maybe a little older, a little wiser, who knows? But they have kind of figured this stuff out. And like, one thing that we can have disagreements, like Sully is saying, but the problem is now there's like we got like armies. Like we're really kind of going back to the Roman days here. Like we got our legions. And the problem is like when we kind of turn on each other, like Nick's audience turns on Tate's audience. Like guys should have seen the chat. Like because you have like 3 different factions. You have like the GG guys, the Myron guys, you have the Tate guys, and then you have the Groypers. That chat was insane. But yeah, that's the problem, man. And then we end up taking away from the overall message. We could have some of these disputes, but while we're kind of like hashing the small stuff out, we got Palantir shit crammed down our throat, And so, and then they don't want to just run Vance. So they want to make Vance, want to run Vance for president and Rubio for VP. Like, it's insanity. It's like, are you trying to lose? Like, I don't know. So that I think that was like a really big takeaway if you guys are kind of keeping track of this drama. And I think they landed on a really good point. And what Myron did, again, I'm not trying to make this all about that show, but what he basically did is he kind of got them to like go back to the beginning. And he asked like some really like thought-provoking questions, like what was that like first time that you really said something, or that post that went viral, that concept that went viral, that really sort of ostracized you out of the mainstream, that they like really attacked you for. And that was like it was really interesting to like hear them talk about that, just to say like you guys have a lot of different opinions, but we all have this like shared experience, and now we got to do something with it because like the people are there, like we have the numbers. But if we just kind of burn that all away, just going after each other over like a misplaced post, like we're losing it. We're up against some very serious forces here. So yeah, I think Sully, you're definitely a big you don't give yourself enough credit sometimes. But yeah, I think Sully's put together a lot of this stuff too. But yeah, guys, check that out. Be cool to get Sneeko on maybe. I don't know if you guys are still close. Sully, come back to Miami, man. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm coming. I'm coming soon. Actually, it won't be too long. I'll be there soon. So yeah, are you in Miami? Like,
hey Trillian, what did you think about the end when Andrew Tate tried to justify his support of J.D. Vance and basically saying, well, after the arrest and everything that was going on in Romania, that he was supportive, that J.D. Vance was supportive of him, like, this is wrong. this is why I was supporting J.D. Vance because of his support of us, and kind of, I think, maybe set Nick straight, because Nick was upset at the fact that the Tate brothers were fans, quote unquote fans of J.D. Vance, but then they kind of worked that out. Do you think that Nick understood that, or do you think he's still pissed?
No, I mean, I don't think Nick's position changed. Tate admitted, he's like, I'm not the politics guy. And he warned Nick, he's like, listen, you might bring something up that I've just never heard of and never thought of before. Nick is like a political machine. Like, he is like born to do this. Like, there's just no argument there. Like, yeah, you could say he's a little young, but he has just been absorbed into that political realm. His goals are political. I'm not saying like he wants to run for president, but this is his main area. So when it comes to like making a decision of like Vance as a person, as supporting Tate, because obviously the Romania thing was insane. Sully covered that for months, I think, right? Like Sully was the guy that like, I don't know, that almost like made Sully's account in those early days, like, right, because there was so many people resonated with that message. And yeah, it feels good to have a figure like Vance come out and support you, and I get that. But the decision we're making is Vance like a cool dude? Like, does he espouse the values of our nation? Is he going to lead our nation to a better place than it was? Is he going to protect our interests, or is he going to serve the interests of Peter Thiel and Alex Karp and Palantir? And so, like, if you just look at it like one dimensionally, strictly from an apolitical perspective that Tate had, where he's in a lot of trouble and he could use any ally he can get, well, I could see why you would be cool with Vance. But then the digging, and you said all of this with like, the connection through the Stanford review, Thiel's funding, all of this stuff, you start to realize there's more depth and layers to this whole thing, where he might be, it's like he was on the right side of that, but politically, I don't think it's in the interest of our nation. It's in the interest of their corporation, not our nation. And the other day, Nick actually said this about
Also,
Vance.
as well, when JD Vance, like, just a point, and by the way, I got a super chat here, £25. Appreciate your support. It says great space. Sully, happy to hear from Josh, Andrew, and Simon as well. Appreciate the support. Look, when JD Vance makes those type of comments in about Europe, it's not as simple as him supporting like one side or the other, or supporting free speech. In reality, there's always nefarious reasons behind it. He's always trying to propagate or perpetuate a specific message and or a specific interest. And so it comes back to the same point again. So when he's talking about Romanian election, in reality, what it is obviously, I agree that the Romanian election should have been fair, right? But is that the reason JD Vance is speaking about it? No, it's not. The reason JD Vance is speaking about it again is because the candidate was more pro-Russian. Again, it was to cause more dissent in that region and that area. If you look at when he talks about free speech in the UK, and he talks about there's no free speech in the UK, which he's right about. So on the face of it, a person be like, yeah, JD Vance, so based. He knows like there's no free speech in the UK. But then is he really saying that? Because in reality, he's saying it for people like Tommy Robinson or various others, because he was talking about how UK is the only Muslim country that's going to have a nuclear weapon. So we know where the kind of idea is coming from, which is obviously propaganda. But when you look at the UK, has he talked about the fact that, for example, 500 people were arrested for being on a pro-Palestinian march? No, he isn't. He's not talking about those issues again. So again, it's very much propaganda based. It's very much to cause this kind of internal strife amongst the working class populace in those areas. I think that's what's the real reason behind it. So again, I don't even give him credit for the Europe thing. There's something a lot more. Well, I know there's more nefarious intent behind it. Let me bring in Habiba, because I know Habiba, you have you got some opinion on this?
Hey, Sully, thank you for having me. Yeah, I think you were spot on in terms of so many points about Russia funding, not only the far right to destabilize European, political, environments. And Romania is a good example of that. Moldova, they've done it across Europe. The Vance thing, that is what. So the Kremlin have identified that Fuentes is the biggest threat to their candidate Vance, because he disapproves of Vance. So it really is about Russia pulling out the stops and going against Fuentes because of this issue. It's actually not even about Israel, believe it or not. It's about it. The Russia thing trumps all of that. The best example I can give is Fuentes. The thing is, he identifies part of the problems, but not the whole problem. So he identified that the grey zone guys came after him. Now, the grey zone guys, Max Blumenthal, right? Ostensibly, they're supposed to be pro-Palestinian, but they are funded by Russia. So what does Tucker Carlson do? He sets the grey zone guys on him to attack him, and it only came after Fuentes started turning against Russia. So if you look at the constellation of actors and backing Vance, it doesn't matter what Vance's views are on Israel. They don't care. The Tates don't care that that Vance is pro-Israel. They don't care at all. It's more that he's pro-Russia. And I hate to say this because I know you guys are close, but on the Tate front, there is a link between the money laundering, Romanian elections, because look at the date they flew back in. They were expecting the election to go the way of Russia, and it didn't. The day that they flew back into Romania, there's a lot of links between the organized crime in Romania and obviously how Russia has been supporting the opposition. That's how they've done it in Moldova. That's how they've done it, like how the Israeli-Russian axis did it in Moldova. They sent an Israeli over to steal $1 billion. And now the guy from Israel is offering to pay Moldovan citizens $3,000 to vote for the Russian candidates. That's how they're destabilizing Europe, basically, in favor of anti-Muslim, pro-Russia, pro-Israeli candidates. So the whole nexus around Fuentes is confused. The whole nexus around him is gunning for him. Not because they were friends or he thought they were friends or he thought they were pro-Israel or what. It's literally the Russia angle. And he's in danger because of it. So the first angle that they've tried is through influence, because Carlson really is one of the chief propagators of Russian influence in America. And it's not that he's deep state, by the way. The deep state know, right? The CIA guys know that Tucker has been gunning against Ukraine for years, and they are not a fan of him. So that there are many people who, the deep state, the military industrial complex, whatever you guys want to call it, they are pro-Ukraine, and they know that Carlson is against them. The people who attacking Fuentes right now, it's not the CIA and all that lot. There's a specific group of people who are pro-Russia, and they are sort of ruling the roost in the White House. Sorry to go on, but the final point is if you look at, for instance, like Carlson's management of pro-Russian influences, it's a constellation of people. After their sort of influencer campaign against him, which isn't working because it's like the Streisand effect, he's getting more and more popular. The next thing they're going to do is go after him through lawfare. So as we know, Putin's office directly paid Kash Patel, so they'll go through their Russian assets in the DOJ, the FBI, and in the establishment to neutralize him, because Vance is too much of a prize for them to let go. He's more pro-Russia than Trump ever would be. Sorry to go on.
Yeah, cool. Look, listen, I have a free speech platform, so I'll let anybody have their opinions, even if I agree or disagree with them. And yeah, that's it. Zingle, go ahead, jump in. You're gonna have to rotate. Your mic's not working. Let me drop you down and bring you back up.
So Habiba, who tried to whack out Nick Fuentes? Because obviously that was a hit job when that kid showed up at his doorstep.
All right, can you guys
I have
hear
no
me?
idea. I have no idea, honestly. But I do think it's not a case of the establishment is gunning for Fuentes. Carlson doesn't represent the establishment. He's representing the Putinists, the Vatniks, right? So there's a lot of people who aren't on Carlson's side, but it's just they have a much bigger. They've dominated every single platform in America on the right. There are only like 2 people on the far right in America who are not pro-Putin at the moment, and one of them is Fuentes, even though he still deals with the Infowars guys, and that is party side.
Nick, from what I know, is like in the Russia-Ukraine situation, is like more believes like he's pro-Russia in the sense of he doesn't like the same opinion most of us have, which is that's a proxy war. It shouldn't have happened, these type of things. But I guess that doesn't make you pro-Russia, because I have that opinion, but then I disagree with Russia's actions in Europe, as an example.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Okay, so he's always had, like, because they've groomed him for a long time. So he's had a de facto Russia stance, okay, for a long time. But when he went against France, That is it. That's an anti-Russia move. And if you are the most influential person, the Kremlin knows that you are the guy who can swing public opinion against Vance, then you are going to become a target. So either they neutralize him by containing him, bringing him into the fold.
What's Vance's connection to Russia, in your opinion?
Did you see it? You saw when Zelensky was there, right?
What, when Zelensky was in Russia?
No, when Zelensky came to the White House,
right?
And you saw Vance launch like the most targeted attack we've ever seen on Zelensky. And again, you know, I'm one of the people who was involved in the Zelensky visit.
He's done that against so many people though, on the White House. Like Vance has disrespected so many world leaders in the White House, and it's not just been Zelensky. So
I'll tell you something. So I was one of the people who was on the team.
But have you got something additional? I'm not trying to disagree with you. I just want to have you got something a bit more deeper? Because I don't think that's.
I can go deeper. I can go. I can go deeper on the Vance point, on Zelensky, and on all of them. But I don't know how much inside baseball you want to get
into. Like, what's your strongest argument for why?
So I was on the team that brought Zelensky into America. The amount of deference and respect and love the people in the American defense industrial base have for Zelensky is amazing. When Vance came out and did that, it was seen by the intelligence community as an attack, an outright attack on Ukraine. More than that, if you look at the people that Vance has surrounded himself by, like David Sachs, like the whole Teal Mafia.
Just on that. So by the way, I think we all viewed it like that. If you look at the analysis on the space, like definitely that was Vance against the military industrial complex for the corporations of big tech. Some people are very simplistic, just saw that as a positive, as it being just directly against the military industrial complex. But I'm asking specifically, like, we know Vance's connections to big tech, Silicon Valley corporations, Elon Musk, all that kind of stuff. I'm asking for more specific connection per your claim of Vance with Russia.
So we can go really detailed into like the money chains, for instance, between the Teal Mafia and the Israelis and the Russians. So if we take someone like David Sachs, again, he's one of the people who got Vance in power between Sachs and Teal, right? He got Vance in power. Sachs has worked with the sanctioned Russian Vadim Moskovich, who is in one of the Russian houses, right? He's a sanctioned Russian. They're on the boards and they've got financial interests between Israel and Russia. They bought up land in Cyprus on behalf of Israel and Russia. These are the people literally who are financially implicated with David Sachs. You look at all of their posts, everything that they've done is in defense of Israel and Russia for the last God knows how long. It's not the case that these guys aren't actively working for and in bed with the Russians, like the campists. And then again, like I said, all of the people that were like they're either de facto Russians.
You know, by the way, Habiba, I actually do believe, like, again, I haven't got like strong evidence because everything we say here is speculation, right, in this aspect. But I do think the Russians, you know, the whole Epstein evidence, I do believe that it's not just the Israeli that is part of the Mossad Israeli operation, but I think that evidence Russia do have, and I do believe that that's been used as well. And
that's a fact, yeah, that's already proven.
And yeah. I think what adds, I always thought that, but what adds, I think, some merit to my argument is, didn't Medvedev literally say the same thing? Didn't he say in some tweet that, oh, we've got what the Israelis have for blackmail, we've got it too?
No, there were other reporting. There were other bits of reporting a long time ago because obviously Epstein visited the Kremlin multiple times. People from the Kremlin side talked about it, about his link with Russia, and that kept going on. And he had an associate, a runner between the two that he maintained until the last. Like, I can't remember the names off the top of my head.
No, I'm trying to say, you know, Medvedev. I'm sure he wrote a tweet saying that. Let me just try and find it.
I was trying to also dig up but there's enough reportage on it. It's not speculative. It's been reported out. I probably have even tweeted about it myself if I look it up. But it is absolutely, there was a link between the two. They're operating in concert, which is how they're successful. The reason Nick's confused again is because he looks at it only through an Israel lens. If he looks at it in terms of, okay, is Vance Russia's man? Then he'll see why even who he thought were his friends, like the Tates, were backing Vance against him.
So Habiba, why do you think Milo's coming after Nick then?
Milo's not dispassionate at all. He's not one of these people who is not part of that whole BAP sphere. He's always been part of the BAPists. The Carlson Network, the Thielsons, he's always had a hand in with them.
Even Candace Owens?
His link with Candace is only recently established, but he was always close to, you know, the Bannon sphere, again, like Thiel, like all of these guys for a long time, the Passage Press people. That link has always been there. It's never gone away. He's feigning like being anti-Israel now, but it makes no difference if you're it's still on the side of the people who are gunning for Fuentes, right?
So what you're trying to say...
Look at it this way. It's more convenient for them to bring out Milo, who was ex-gay, right, to attack someone on the grounds of them being gay. So then you don't look like a bigot for attacking someone on LGBT grounds if you bring out like a person who was ostensibly in that field anyway to accuse Nick of being gay. So he will drag him through the mud. They'll do character assassination. They'll fed jacket him. They'll drug up his finances, his associations, his networks. They'll try and destroy his reputation. People are smart enough to know you know, that he's been through it all before and he's got a loyal following, and that will see him through this. But to recognize who is actually in his camp is difficult, because you've got to look at both the Israel side and the Russia side.
Yeah, the smear tactics are not working. It's actually making him way stronger, I think, than ever before. So you're saying that Fuentes is unknowingly anti-Russian, not knowingly anti-Russian, right?
So it's just like Suleiman said. So when Fuentes talks about Russia, he almost adopts the de facto Russia position.
Her argument is that her argument is Russia wants to take Nick out because he's trying to take their choice Vance out. Sorry, Habiba, go ahead.
Yep, yeah, you got it. You said it better than I could. And the other thing is, with the presidential run, they would rather, even if Trump is ever a threat to Russia, they will take him out in preference for Vance, because they know that Vance is their man. They've got men in power now who are their men, like David Sachs, openly pro-Russia. Why is Vance still buddy with Elon? Elon openly pro-Russia. Why are they, the whole PayPal mafia? Why are they all pro? It's not just pro policy, it's financial links with all of them. It's much deeper than this. The Russians heavily invested in X, you know, the kind of through all. I've written about all of this.
This is what Medvedev said. I thought I read it right. He said this. He said Trump should not think that the video archive of his past immoralities are only in the hands of Mossad.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I was sure I read it. So that's literally, so that's something I thought for a very long time, that the Russians, and by the way, I don't agree with this whole like Russia gate that happened before, but what I'm saying is clearly I do, but based on like a lot of the things that have been happening recently, as well as the last year or so, I did think that both the Israelis and the Russians had some dirt on Trump. And I mean, who's the Russian leader saying it? Like, okay, you could say he's just lying, or maybe he's telling the truth. I don't know.
Do you guys remember what they did just before he got elected? On Russian state TV, they published, I think, the naked photos of Melania Trump. And she came out with a strident defense of her photography, saying, you know what, I'm proud of myself. But that was their way of saying, okay, we've got compromise on your wife. Look at what we can't do on you. And on state television, this was done. There's nothing in Russia, because it's a controlled society, that's published on state TV without their say-so and know-how. Again, I think, the biggest threat vector Fuentes faces is because he's still got an association with Alex Jones, who is... if you look at the research on this, InfoWars and Alex Jones, they have republished more of RT, Russia Today, which is the state arm. It's a state arm. It's not just a public broadcaster. It's a state-sanctioned arm of Russian agitprop, propaganda abroad, which is why America sanctioned it. They still publish most of their material through InfoWars and Alex Jones. So a lot of the conversations that Nick will have on InfoWars will be steered from a pro-Russian perspective through Alex Jones. And he'll steer it in such a way that he has shut down, you know, when it gets really spicy or juicy, he'll shut it down, even on Israel, right? He won't let it go there. But because it's still part of that.
Your entire argument
I think Medvedev's deleted that tweet, because I'm looking at his page and I can't find it, but I found it somewhere else, where someone else posted that he said it, because I remember seeing it on his page. I think he's deleted that tweet about Mossad. That's probably why he didn't know about it.
This is fucking crazy.
Sorry, who was speaking?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think your argument just makes a lot more sense if you replace the word Russia with Israel.
Yeah.
Like, not to steer it away from Russia, right? But I mean, like, fundamentally, Vance is Russia's guy. I mean, okay. He sits down, he berates Zelensky. Okay, I'll give you that one. But if
Yeah,
you
but
switch places,
he berated Keir Starmer, who's a Zionist. He berated the leader of South Africa. Like, this is what he started doing. He berated the Jordanian leader. Like, these guys have just been insulting like almost every world leader that goes there. Like, if I was a world leader, I'd be ready to just like attack back. But then some of them are in a weaker position, so they gotta take it.
yeah,
So
because
you can go further though. Okay, so why did Carlson get really exercised over, who is it over? Joe Kent. Now Joe Kent, ostensibly pro-Israel, was buddy with Fuentes. Fuentes is then surprised when he gets backstabbed. Who is Joe Kent? Now, if you look at the list that Fuentes says he was given by someone in the White House who said, okay, who can I trust? Who's America first? He's given a list of a number of characters. I tweeted about this as well. If you go through the list, every single one of them by the Ukrainian camp, like the military industrial complex, whatever, the defense industrial base, they are regarded as Vutniks. They are all regarded as pro-Russia. So Joe Kent and all the candidates that are being fielded that Fuentes was pushed towards are all pro-Russia. Joe Kent is one of them. So when Joe Kent turned on him, is when, again, what was the reason for it? And this is what Fuentes
How do you
misses.
know that? I know that
No, but
whole
I thought
story that
Joe
you're talking
Kent
about.
turned
How
on
do you
him
know
because
that?
the Israel thing. Sorry, go ahead.
So piece it together. Is Joe Kent pro-Russia, or is he seen as pro-Russia? Yes, you can do the research
Pro-Israel.
yourself.
How?
He's
How do you know
pro-Russia
he's
too.
pro-Russia? How do you know that?
So I used to work in defense, right? In defense communications. There's a bunch of people who promote Russian messages and Russian positions on defense that everyone knows about because they've done it formally. And there are a bunch of people like Tenet Media who are paid by the Russians, who are paid by RT, paid by people associated with the Russian government who promote Russian positions. Some people do it wittingly, some unwittingly, but these networks are mapped, not by me, but by others. So Joe Kent, if you look up Joe Kent, Russia, Vatnik, you'll see it. Literally on X, you'll see, okay, all these people that Fuentes listed, they're all seen as pro-Russia candidates. The people who steered Fuentes, whoever who was steering Fuentes from the White House towards supporting the Russian candidates, they're not America first. They are pro-Russia. You can open search all of this detail like yourself. If you search Joe Kent's position on Russia and Ukraine.
I don't know. I honestly think to Sully's point is they're just focus grouping the stuff. Vance is saying the stuff that he knows people will want to hear, and you switch places. He does the exact. Listen, if you're in the defense industry, there's way more money interest in supporting Ukraine than in supporting Russia, right? Because they're selling weapons to Ukraine and not to Russia. So I don't really see where. Like I just don't see it, right? I don't know if you can just like summarize this all into like, well, actually it's Russia. I've heard this go around that actually like Candace is a Russia shill and so is Tucker and Nick too, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Like I think perhaps Nick's contention is more so not that he's like pro-Russia, it's just that he doesn't want white Christian men dying for no reason on either side. Like could that
Oh no,
make more
Trillion.
sense?
That's not her argument. So just 2 points. Her argument, but and I'm not saying I agree. I don't agree with her argument. Not that I don't agree with it. I just think that there's not been enough evidence to substantiate it. But it's worth looking into. But her argument isn't that. Her argument isn't that Nick's pro-Russia. Her argument is that JD Vance is who Russia want in as president, and because Russia want JD Vance as president, Nick Fuentes has become a problem because he's literally been the main point of attack against JD Vance. Now, some of us have, but Nick's been the biggest threat. Let's be clear on that. And so, because he's the biggest threat to that, her claim is that that's why they want to take him out. Because if this guy's big now, when JD Vance tries to become president in 2027, 2028, it's going to be even more of a problem. So let's take the problem out earlier, is what her argument is. And like, for example, Nick said it today that he's going to 2027, the gripe is going to go hard against JD Vance. So her argument is that Russia's trying to take Nick out before he becomes an even bigger problem, is what her argument is. I'm not saying I agree with that, I'm just explaining her argument, Trillion.
I think Trillion's right. Just
Yeah, that's
replace
exactly
Russia,
right. Like, what's the
replace
bigger
Russia
prize
with
than
Israel,
Russia?
and then you have it proper. But that just makes no sense. All you're trying to do is just change one country out to another country in order to throw the scent off.
No, so I'm not saying that the Zionist influence over the government through people like Stephen Miller isn't extremely serious. But who is the peer power? Who is the peer competitor? Who is there's no more powerful position than the president, and if Vance is their guy, there's no more bigger kind of guy that they want in power than Vance. Like, he is the main thing. So he would serve both Israel and Russia, but it's Russia who is sponsoring him. In the same way, again, that Russia paid through Putin's office, they paid Kash Patel, they paid a bunch of people who were sitting in the White House. They had a Russian head of, not the chief of staff, but the guy, I think he was the chief of staff, who was actually Russian, who was at FSB, determining things like access to the White House. You've got Russians all over the White House at the moment. You're absolutely right, Trillian. The defense base is pro-Ukraine, right? The old school establishment, there are a lot of Republicans who are pro-Ukraine. There are a lot of people in government who are aghast, devastated at the direction it's gone in, who are fighting on the Ukraine side still. But the people who are controlling and running the shots in MAGA are very pro-Russia and pro-Israel. But the Vance thing, it's a very Russian operation, which the grey zone example is the best one of this. Why would Tucker Carlson team up with a pro-Palestinian outlet that was Russia funded to take down Fuentes? They don't team up with an Israeli outlet, they team up with a pro-Palestinian one.
Yeah, but that happened before Vance, so that doesn't prove your point.
But he's, again, like, he's not, if you're not, okay, so this thing,
so now your argument, but then your argument doesn't make sense there, because your argument is that Russia somehow knew the future, and they knew that Nick Fuentes was going to go against J.D. Vance, and therefore they went back in time and made sure that Max Blumenthal and Tucker Carlson did that hit piece on him.
No, look, there's this thing in Russian, in the Russian lexicon. So there's active measures, and in terms of how they control, the information space and who is their influencers. If they're not actively bought out, then they're controlled or managed, or they'll seek to influence them in one way or the other. You identified that yourself with Le Pen, and they've done that with and I've studied it, every single far right politician in Europe is basically either funded or controlled or managed or supported or sponsored by either Israel or Russia or both, without exception. I've got a map I can publish in your Nest. And it's the same thing here. So if he's out of control and they can't manage him, they will try to neutralize him. That's all this is. So if he wasn't on message,
but I just don't think you've provided, like, this whole argument fits better if you were to say Israel. And I actually agree with Trillian and Dennis, because actually J.D. Vance is Israel's pick. He immediately, when he got elected, talked about how he was going to bomb Iran within the first week or so for Israel. If you look at a lot of the moves that he's made, is very much the pro-Zionist position, big tech, Silicon Valley. Now, I'm not saying that Russia won't benefit from this, and there's no doubt in my mind that when you look into it, there will be some Russian connection, because there's a lot of Russian Jews who are pro-Israel as well, and so there will be some kind of overlap there. That bit I won't discard. Like, I'm not gonna be like Russia's completely not involved whatsoever. But if you look at who's the main benefactor, who's this behind, who's this making all the decisions, then I very much this argument, it lays out a lot more stronger when it is Israel. And so J.D. Vance is Israel's pick. J.D. Vance is being put in position for them. And if you look, and it's not just Israel, obviously it is Israel, but then it's the big tech, it's Silicon Valley, it's the corporations, it's all of these guys, which is is very much Zionist control, although there will be some overlay of Russia. We're not like, none of us are like very, like, we understand nuance, we understand that there is like depth and breadth to these things, but I think when you're saying it's a Russia thing and not an Israel thing, I think that's where, or the Russia's the main thing, I think that's where people kind of, there's not a strong enough argument. If you look at Max Blumenthal, who I like a lot, by the way, I think he's done some great work against the Zionist regime. He basically, if you look at his the piece that he did with Tucker Carlson against Nick, it was well before J.D. Vance was even on the horizon, and so that would have been more about taking someone out, or maybe not. Maybe it was to exemplify him. Like, there's always these kind of various reasons for it. I don't know how big Nick was at that time when they did the hit piece. So I don't think that proves it, but I think there is like, look, I understand your argument, but I think there's a lot more like other factors to it.
Plus, Max Blumenthal's father was Sidney Blumenthal, who was a hatchet man for the Clintons, which ties into the whole Russian collusion thing. So Habiba, just out of curiosity, do you believe that, even though everything's been disproven, that Russia was involved in collusion with President Trump?
It's a really long. I don't even know where to start to answer that. When
it's kind of a yes or no question at this point.
There's collusion, but how it's been spun by both sides is really interesting. I'm watching the fallout like daily because how it plays into Signalgate. Because look at who's conveniently talking about going after Obama right now is Tulsi Gabbard, who the Russian state media said is, in their words, their girlfriend. And at the same time, you've got Joe Kent, who, what is it? He's head of the National Counterterrorism, and he works closely with Gabbard. So you've got in key positions across the board. You either had Quincy Institute, you had Russia, pro-Russia, Vutniks, across the board. The reason there was so much alarm raised over Gabbard and Kent going into power in critical national security positions was because things that they said. Joe Kent, for instance, said that Putin's demands were reasonable. No one who has been fighting the war against Ukraine would ever say such a thing. The things that they've said and
What
done.
year? Well, hold on. What year did he say that?
You want exact years? My memory's
Was
not
that
good.
before Minsk?
Look,
Or
for
probably around
anyone
the
to say
time?
it, no, hold on. I'll pull up receipts, but this is his position generally. Like, he's never deviated from it. He's always been de facto taken the Russian position of, we've got to kind of cede Ukrainian territory. We have to, like, basically all of Putin's demands about the end of the war, like on Putin's terms. So it's seen as that way, or you go the Hudson way, So it's not, he's seen very clearly as, it's not me saying this, guys, again, all of this stuff is open sourced about their histories. Look at David Sax's outright ardent support. I can post it up in the nest of Russia, and then his links to Vadim Moskovich. I'll post the studies that I've done about how they've invested and bought up Cyprus together with the Israelis, this and that. It's kind of extensive. I'll put up receipts if you want.
So what do you think about all of the intelligence agents that were on the cover of the New York Post that said that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation? Do you believe that they were correct? Or do you think that it was Russian?
Okay, so just for information, New York Post is one of the first outlets that Mossad uses to mainstream their perspectives in America.
Well, just answer my question. Do you think that it was Russian disinformation, or do you think those spies were incorrect and should be punished as such?
I honestly I don't know how to answer that. Like, some of the information was being used by Russia, and it's on both sides that they're playing the aisle, right? Like, Hunter was compromised. Like, I'm bipartisan in the sense that there's been compromise on both sides, and people working on both sides of the aisle against Ukrainian interests, for instance.
Okay, so that's another non-answer.
No, but
how about Joe
but
Kent?
just to be clear, Habiba, you are
Because
pro-Ukraine.
I'm 100% pro-Ukraine, like, no two ways.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, I just think it's a bit of a contradictory statement to say, like, Israel, like, same people support Israel, support Russia. Like, you said, like, Israel, Russia support. Like, it's like, I've seen a lot of Israel, Ukraine flags, not very many Israel, Russia flags. I would just say that those two agendas, Israel, Ukraine, actually align much more coherently. If you factor in Iran, you factor in a bunch of other all right, fine. So let's just like work it out, right? Let's say there's some merit to this. Russia's trying to get their guy in to accomplish what? To cede the rest of Ukraine, to stop sending Ukraine missiles, to remove their sanctions. Because I can pretty much, like, this is my opinion, you might disagree with me, but even if you had Vance in, their guy, all of the same things would happen, because ultimately the puppeteer pulling the strings here is not Russia, it is Israel, and it's in their interest that Ukraine gets cleared out. It's their interest. So let's swap them out. Let's put Vance where Trump is now. He doesn't want to send him more weapons. A week later, start sending him more missiles. I don't think Vance would do anything different. So I don't understand how that would yield to, like, being Russia's guy if he's just going to keep doing the same thing that ultimately serves the Israeli agenda.
Whereas if Vance is in charge, likely there would have been a more expansive war with Iran, even though they're trying to claim he's the anti-war guy. But I think that's just fake news.
There, I would agree with you. There, I would definitely, on Iran, I definitely would agree.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. I think he's in Israel. I'm just like, me. I like, we're a free speech platform. We want everyone to give their ideas and thoughts, and we discuss them. I actually think he's an Israeli choice, not a Russian one. But I just want Habiba to. I was just explaining Habiba's argument to you because I thought you might have thought she was saying something else.
And Habiba, just to understand, to be pro-Ukrainian, do you mean you think Zelensky's fighting for democracy and he's working for his country?
Yeah, because my perspective is that the Israeli-Russia axis is working together militarily. We saw that in Syria with the release of information about the defense channel that degraded Hezbollah assets in Syria. We've seen it across, Africa in terms of how the Wagner Group is working with Mossad. We've seen it in multiple domains, and
Yeah,
also
but
I've had this
what I'm
confirmed.
saying is you could be
Yeah.
anti-Russia and still think that Zelensky's a puppet for a military agenda. You
No,
don't.
I don't, because because with my Muslim hat on, I look at the Crimean Tatars who are under threat from Russia, who've been ethnically cleansed by them, and the Muslim defense minister of Ukraine. It's not that they are sort of how they're depicted as Nazis. These guys are fighting for their homeland, and rightfully so. Like I support that, and I support,
And
you know,
you don't think like CIA, NATO had a clear agenda to escalate this war, and you used to work for
they
military,
didn't.
right? Do you still
Yeah, so
work for
I don't.
military?
So I don't work for the military anymore, but I absolutely believe, yes, the CIA and NATO are supporting the Ukrainian armed forces, rightfully so,
But
because
they're
they're
doing
doing.
it because they're defenders of democracy.
Well, when you say that it's not about democracy, Russia invaded
She's not
Ukraine,
going to
No,
answer.
and
what I'm saying is, do you believe that
no, it's not about defending democracy.
CIA, and Zelensky are working for military contractors or working to defend democracy?
Right.
No, I
That's
don't
the
believe
question.
either. It's not about defending democracy. Russia attacked Ukraine in the same
No,
way
so
it
let's
took
let's be
20,
clear on this, no,
in
because
the
I think
same
it's
way it
getting
took
confused.
20% of
No, 1 second.
Georgia.
So
Yeah.
I think what Habiba's position is, and correct me if I'm wrong, she's not saying it's defending democracy. But I don't agree with this. I'm just trying to explain her position. Simon, I believe that she believes it's that they're defending their sovereignty.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
100%.
So, but just to get the actors right, so CIA,
NATO versus Russia,
but do
100%.
you reckon, like, because the way I see NATO is they simply a sales strategy for Lockheed Martin and General Dynamic and everyone. Do you think that NATO is genuinely defensive and not aggressive?
So again, it is a defensive war because Russia invaded in the same way that it invaded, Georgia, in the same way that it's on the borders of Finland and
But
it's the
but
chief
what
industrial
I'm
factories
saying
all
is,
over the world.
if could both Russia and military contractors and CIA and NATO all benefit from this together, because I see them all benefiting.
Yeah, so there is, of course, there's the argument that they've benefited because they've sent them old stock, but at the same time, it's affecting America's readiness, and it's as we've seen on the global stage. Okay, so if they were to go to war with China, is Russia
Yeah, but
working against America?
Lockheed
Yes.
Martin doesn't give a shit about America. They just care about selling weapons.
Well, I know them, so it's not always the case.
All right, so used to work in, like, when you say you know them, you mean you were a staff there, or like how the board think?
No, I used to I don't think this is a secret. I was working for the Defense Industrial Base. Like I literally was the spokesperson. So I worked with all of the primes. So I know how they think about Ukraine. It's not just
No, I know,
avarice
but
and greed.
all
It's
right.
through.
So
No, hold on.
look,
Wait, let me finish, Simon. Simon, it's not avarice and greed. It was ideological commitment as well to Ukraine. People actually care that this nation gets to survive. I wish that they had the same perspective on Israel, but Israel has, and it's kind of attack and genocide on Gaza. But the fact of the matter is Israel has been hoodwinking the West for decades. They've only woken up in the last year, some people, and people are still learning about it. Arabs and Muslims have known this all along. Everyone else is just taking a longer time to figure this out,
and so from your experience of working in defence, and obviously there's a difference between being on the board and working, but do you reckon military companies would take a massive hit on their profits for peace, or do you reckon they always need some kind of war somewhere in order to maintain their revenue targets?
No, okay, so it's not how it works at all. That's kind of, I hate to say it, Simon, but it's not that it's a conspiracy theory. It just doesn't reflect the way in which the base is funded, because there's one demand signal coming from the government. That's the only demand signal that they all operate to, and that operates to like 10-15 year sort of sprints at a time. So they get told what their contracts are years in advance. And it's not the case that the demand signal fluctuates based on whether or not they ramp up a war. That the American defense industrial base didn't ask Russia to invade and attack Ukrainians or
No,
Georgians,
yeah, but
right?
hold on.
But
So
they
you got
did. So, and they did, and they chose to get involved. Do they benefit? Yes. But is it the case that America benefits strategically overall? No, it isn't, to be attacked, or for allies to be attacked. No, it's not. The readiness level has to be
Okay,
Absolutely,
regardless.
absolutely, America benefit.
Let Simon ask you some questions. Go ahead, Simon.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, America benefit. America wants GDP. America wants share prices to be maintained, and America's dollar is backed by a continual conflict in the world, which has a side benefit of also being able to extract resources, which has another benefit of being able to rebuild and prevent competition. So, to say America doesn't benefit from Ukraine,
I didn't
and
say that.
now, all right, what is it then? So,
I said it does. The defense base does benefit from contracts there. But does overall strategically, is there a case that if they send all their 155 millimeter artillery shells to Ukraine, that then depleted elsewhere? And that is the case. So
yeah,
there
but
is an overall
so
attack, especially with Israel draining Ukrainians' defense systems. There's an overall attack on readiness and the depletion of stockpiles, and it affects so many things. Look at the cost that Israel and Ukraine have cost America and American taxpayers. It's not the case that it's just one group of people enriching themselves ad infinitum, because they have to be ready for a war 10 years from now that no one knows about. No one can
hold on.
predict
So
whether or not.
do you
So the
reckon that
timelines
these?
don't make sense, like per
Sure,
what you're saying. You know, Simon?
but do you think these military companies are patriotic? They're America first.
I spoke to again, like I was director level, so I spoke to people when Vance attacked Zelensky, and the horror up top to bottom about how he was treated. It was just like a sucker punch. All of us were just, it was not only revolting, but it was a sense of how could people who are fighting for their country and their lives be subjected to that humiliation in America, on American soil, and we're, while we're supporting them with American troops over there fighting for Ukrainian sovereignty. And again, because I'm Muslim, I'm thinking of the Crimean Tatars whose land has been ethnically cleansed. This is a righteous fight, whichever way you look at it. So
Well,
what Vance is doing with the Israelis.
it's not a
Yeah,
righteous fight if you believe that Zelensky is just getting kickbacks from sacrificing his country, and he's not fighting for his country.
but that's not what
He's
the
just
audits
destroying
say.
his country.
Yeah, that, I guess this is a personal opinion as to whether or not you've read the audits on Ukraine or not, and you know where the spending is going. This is part of the Russian agitprop, is that he's corrupt, he's a Nazi, but that's just Russian agitprop. They are doing a damn good job fighting against like one of the greatest powers in the world, and they're doing it alone almost, because they didn't have full-throated, European support for years. Only recently have the Europeans stepped up, so they're doing an amazing job relative to what they could be doing for the size of the economy, the people, what they're sustaining. My heart is with them, as it is with the Palestinians. It's a dual threat from Israel and Russia, but Russia are the great power in this game, and they are the
So those
people
of
who
you
are
who are
coming
Sure,
listening,
after
but
the
this is
but but do you
Palestinians.
think
obviously
more
somebody who's being
Ukrainians
paid to
die
promote the
by fighting this
Ukrainian
war
war.
or
I
That's
wish
what
recognizing
you're
it's
Russia.
suggesting.
unwinnable?
I honestly wish Russia wasn't killing Ukrainians day after day. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but do you not think that Zelensky, like, do you reckon there is no way for Zelensky to end this? Like
But it's like
when
asking Israel to end their attack and occupation and genocide. It takes military strength to force them to do that. So that's what's required in the room.
I would say it's quite different in the situation between the Palestinians. The Ukrainians and Russians are like brothers. It's brother wars. They're the same people. Ukraine, Palestine, it's on identity lines too. But here's what I would ask you,
No,
like,
you're right about that, but I'm talking about military power and overmatch.
yeah, but here's what else you keep making this connection that the military doesn't look. The biggest test bed right now for Palantir's most cutting edge technologies and systems, the test bed for that is Ukraine. So just like Trump's biggest donor benefactor was Sheldon Adelson. If you look at Trump's policy on Iran, it's very similar exactly to what Sheldon Adelson put out there. And Sheldon Adelson didn't have a bunch of different policies. He was a one policy guy, and he wanted Iran nuked. And that was the guy who gave Trump the most. This past, he passed away, so now it's through Miriam Adelson. But the Adelsons give him a ton of money, and he's carrying out their agenda. And guess who is giving Vance a ton of money, backing him from the time he was just a lowly law school student at Yale? Well, it's Peter Thiel, and he has a giant interest in Palantir. They're developing, like we talked about, Imperius, the Leonidas systems. They're developing a whole new subset of chips, the gallium nitride chips, just to defeat these like drone swarms and like these like microwave weapons. The test bed for that is Ukraine. So that's what I'm saying. It's like if Trump, you see that Trump got a lot of money from Adelson, he wanted Iran destroyed. That's what Trump is trying to do. Vance got a bunch of money from Peter Thiel, and Palantir is making a ton of money off of the killing in Ukraine. So like, at what point does does that change? Like they have every reason to just keep prosecuting the war until Ukraine runs out of men. And if I know you're saying it's going like very well. It doesn't seem like it's going that well. I don't know what you're basing that off of.
No,
Like,
and you
how
know what?
would
I
you
actually agree
qualify
with
that?
you. Actually, most of what you've said, I like fundamentally agree with. The problem with Palantir is that it is serving Israeli interests,
But
right?
then Palantir, no, but your argument was that Palantir was a Russia thing, right? And
No, I
Palantir,
mean they're both like the PayPal network is implicated with both.
Palantir has been helping Ukraine though, hasn't it, as well? So, like for example, if you look at Palantir, they've the Ministry of Defense. I'm just looking at it now. They in Ukraine have used Palantir products. They've got a number of deals with Ukraine. So this isn't like it isn't like the Palestinians have got some kind of deal with Palantir, right?
No, you're
Ukrainians
right.
have.
Yeah, you're right. So the second tweet I pinned in the nest shows, for example, one of the architects of the PayPal mafia, David Sachs. Okay, so the problem with all of these firms is that they are co-located, because I've studied this like in depth. They're co-located in places like Israel. So the Israelis are using that data to then help the Russians, believe it or not, while telling America that it's the reverse. And you've got examples of this across the board, whether or not it's with Sam Altman and OpenAI, like one of his co-founders is an Israeli Russian who then founds an AI firm, which is an Israeli Russian firm based in
Yeah, but I have
Israel.
no doubt that so I just want to be clear on this because I feel like it's being
Yeah.
conflated. Whenever you have an Israeli Russian, it's an Israeli. Any Israeli in any other country has more loyalty to Israel than it does to that other country.
That's
And
true.
so, yeah, if you look at the history of Israelis, as you call them, or like Jewish people, or whoever it is, right, whatever you want to call them, throughout history, they've always served the interest of Israel over their own country. So if you look at like in the 50s, they were spying on the Russians for America because they wanted to benefit Israel, and vice versa. They'd spy on America and give intel. So again, when you say a Russian Israeli, really you mean an Israeli.
No. So like I'll put it in I put it in the nest just now. Like there's a guy called Shaw, and I mentioned this earlier. He steals $1 billion from Moldova Central Bank. He's Israeli, based in Israel. And then he works for Russia and for Russian interests, according to the Times of Israel, because he's steering the elections for the Russian candidate. So the Axis works together, right? But again, Russia is like the peer competitor. So you've got 3 peer competitors or near peer competitors. It's Russia and it's China. And
Yeah, I
so
get your
yeah.
argument, but I think like I get your argument. You're trying to say this guy's Russian Israeli, therefore he has interests for Russia and Israel. And I'm
Yeah, so they
saying,
work for both of their mutual
yeah, I'm
interests.
saying this
Sometimes one
dual
trumps the other.
citizen. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
saying this dual citizen. What we see with a lot of these Jewish dual citizens is they'll always have allegiance to Israel before the other country. Now, it may be in his interest to benefit Russia as well, but then you have a lot of like Israeli Americans where they might try and benefit America a little bit, but really it's always to benefit Israel and the interest always there. And I think when you look at this whole argument that you made, when I look at Palantir, who is the person who, of course, JD Vance and Elon Musk and all these big tech Silicon Valley's guys are definitely involved. But if you look at Palantir, they're very much an Israeli front. They have hardly any it's not like they've taken a side in the Russia-Ukraine war. I'm just looking at the information. I already knew some of this, but like they're significantly helping Ukraine out in the war and letting them use the software and technology, giving them military support both in defense and offense.
Yeah, that's how they play both sides. It's almost it's a pinch
Yeah,
strategy.
so it's not a
So yeah,
Russian
you're
front
right.
though, is it? They're like literally helping Ukraine.
But Habib,
No, so
Habib, don't you think it just makes way more sense that actually none of these leaders are patriotic to their countries, but there are a bunch of companies that profit from funding both sides of these wars or escalating both sides of these wars, and it's the companies on top that actually pay through lobby and Israel is, you know, working an agenda, a lobby agenda. America's working a lobby agenda, and then Russia has allegiances. Like, doesn't that make way more sense than saying Israel's in control? No, America's in control. Ukraine, like they're just all traitors, and they're all
Yeah, they are
prostitutes.
traitors, but it's not solely profit is a tiny part of it, because what would Russia do with funds? You know, they've already got, you know, Russians all over the White House, the DoD, the defense sector, the national security, you know, sector. So what do
Yeah,
they
but
benefit from?
Russia doesn't receive lobby money. Russia,
Hold on. To answer, it's a lot more than about lobbying money. So what does Russia benefit from by having their man in the White House? It's a hell of a lot more. It's like whether or not they can overtake Greenland, right? Whether or not they have any influence over NATO, whether or not they destabilize Europe, whether or not they walk away from Europe altogether, whether or not they support the Baltics that are being attacked or invaded or destabilized by Russia, whether or not. So the Russian sphere of influence is global, as is Israel, but the net impact is enormous. And when the two of them work together, which they have been doing and playing both sides, I've put a link up in the nest showing the ways in which, and this has been corroborated time and time again, you'll see it bit by bit corroborated, the way in which the Israelis take American defense tech and then sell it or use it or give it to the Russians time and time again. It's the chips, it's the avionics, it's every aspect of American technology ends up in our enemy's hands, whether or not it's Russia or China. Israel midwifes that and gets a lot out of it. It's like the middleman, it takes a cut. But again, they are aiding the Russians actively. So they work in concert. They do, as Sully said. And how they do it, you can break down
yeah.
at a
So
very
then
granular level
let's
who the
work.
Don't
actors
put
are.
me in there. I explained like what the
You explained it
perspective
better than I
is.
could.
No, I've very much been very consistent. I do think that, because I don't agree that this is for Russian interests. I think there's very substantive evidence that this is for Israeli interests. And my concern is, and I know you're not doing it for that reason, that you're minimizing the Israeli interest and Israeli control because of this thing with Russia that you've got. Now, in terms of Russia, I've clearly demonstrated that I'm not a pro-Russia guy because I have significant issues with them in terms of their actions outside of Russia and Europe and UK and various other countries. But in terms of Vance being a Russia guy, I just don't think that's the case. I think we've just, like, don't get me wrong, like Russia will have certain information. Like I gave you an example. Mossad clearly have blackmail material on Trump. There's no doubt about that. And then the Russian leader literally says, guess what? That blackmail material they've got, we've got it as well. So, and I always believe that. So there clearly is, it's not like Russia's just like some innocent who doesn't know what's happening. Of course they do. But when you look at Palantir, when you look at the fact that they're connected to the Ukrainians, when you look at the fact that they're actually just pro-Israel, they're using Palantir technology to murder Palestinians. They're not playing both sides there, Habiba. They're not giving Palestinian technology to destroy, to kill Israelis, right? So there's
So
not.
I'll give an example of what they say they'll do, right? So they'll say, okay, we're supporting, and they have offered. So the
No, but
Israelis
why
offer.
have they not given Palestinians any weaponry if they play both sides?
No,
Why?
no. When I say both sides, because relative to America, so they'll offer the Ukrainians intelligence, but then they'll use the Russian, Israelis will use Russian satellites to degrade Palestinians and to gain information. So they'll do this consistently. For example,
No,
the
but it's
drones.
not as you're minimizing it. Like if you
No,
look
I'm
at,
not. No, I'm
looking
actually
at
doing
the
the opposite. I'm saying I'm doing the opposite. I'm not
military support
This
minimizing.
is
that they're giving to
obviously
Ukraine. They say
a
that actually
Ukrainian
Palantir software is
propagandist.
responsible for most of
It
the
becomes more obvious as
targeting
she
that benefits
continues this
Ukraine.
week.
They
No,
help
it's
them
not
with
being used
battlefield.
against Ukraine. They say it's being used for it. So they'll benefit
Yeah, for
from
it.
it in
Yeah,
that
yeah,
sense. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
For Ukraine. That's what I said.
So it's not that I'm minimizing Israel. I'm saying if you don't recognize both threat vectors acting in concert, you minimize both of them. You have to see that they both pose a greater threat because they're working together.
Yeah, so it's quite clear that Israel is a huge threat, and I think with Russia and Ukraine, there are other issues with them. And in some aspects, it's in some aspects it is that basically, and you saw it. Your boy Zelensky literally was praising Israel. He was for Israel. So it's not like one guy is anti-Israel, the other one's not. You basically have it where this Ukraine, basically when you look at the Ukraine-Russia war, is nowhere near comparable to the Israeli Zionist interest and control
Actually,
over.
Zelensky came out with a muted when Trey Yingst Fox's correspondent interviewed Zelensky, Zelensky came out with a muted criticism, and I'll tell you why. Because
Zelensky wanted to
behind the
go
scenes,
to Zelensky wanted to go to Israel to basically be part of them, and they rejected
no,
him.
his parents are there, so he was trying to lobby as well. Okay,
No,
so
but
he's
he
Jewish.
wanted to meet Netanyahu.
Yes, but hold on. Here's
Yeah.
what's going on.
So this
So
is just a
there were
blag. Like he wanted to, like such is his level and his level of immorality was he wanted to run off to Israel and give them his physical support, and they thought he's so toxic, like the most genocidal, barbaric, evil nation thought that Zelensky, you are such a negative, you have such a negative impact on us if you were to come that we don't want you to come. That's literally what happened.
So actually, it's much more complicated than this. What happened was, I don't know if you've been following the issue with the Patriot systems. So the Patriot batteries were sent to Israel from, like, they're given to Israel, they're funded by the US, given to Israel. Now, Ukraine needed them. And for over 2 years, the Israelis refused to give their Patriot systems, it's the defense systems, to Ukraine for their defense. Why? Because Russia told Israel not to. It's the same reason that Russia wouldn't send S-400s to Iran, because Israel asked them to. So the Russians never intervened for their supposed ally Iran. Why? Because the Israelis said don't do it, and they didn't. Now you'll see with the case of Syria. Sorry, I've got guests in the background. With the case of what was I saying? Yeah, so with the Patriot systems, time and time again, Netanyahu kept saying, no, we're not going to send our Patriot systems to Ukraine. Why? Because again, Russia would have objected. Russia was objecting to it again and again and again. So Zelensky has been trying to get them, and then finally Trump broke and said, no, we're going to send them through, and he sent them. He arranged for the German systems. Now, Israelis didn't even need the Patriot batteries, but they were vital to Ukrainian defense, and yet Israel refused to send them over. And it also commandeered again its stockpiles of 155 millimeters, a whole host of things that were supposed to be for Ukraine, the Israelis took, and the Ukrainians could do nothing about it. Over time, you've seen the Ukrainians, even in the last vote at the UN, they didn't take the American line on Israel and Palestine. They were neutral because they didn't back America's position, which is really tough thing to do because they're completely sponsored by America, and yet they still didn't take the Israeli line in those votes. And that indicates that they did pivot, and they did corroborate what I put in the nest about the Israeli-Russian Defense Pact. They have corroborated that to a Washington Post journalist who I shared all this data with. So the Ukrainian intelligence have confirmed that it's Israeli munitions on the battlefield that are being used against them right now. They know what's going on.
I think what you're talking about with the Patriots, I don't think that actually that works, because if that were the case, they'd be happy. Well, first off, Israel didn't want to give them anything for free, right? Because everything that goes to Ukraine is free. They don't have any money. I guess you could buy bonds or whatever, but they have no money. By the way, a hilarious bond situation here in the United States. I don't know if you heard this one yet. I don't want. Anyway, they're making Floridians buy Israeli junk bonds. That's a headline, but maybe we can get into it later. But
Whoa, I'm
it
in
would.
Florida. What do you mean? That's crazy.
Yeah, they're making it like it's like they're passing some law that you have to buy. Companies cannot, like BDS, Israeli junk bonds. Basically, their economy is cooked. But yeah, it's a whole article. It's actually quite hilarious. We could talk about it. But here's the thing: is if Ukraine was willing to pay for those systems, which obviously they're not, and I think for some reason this strikes me as sometime during the Iran-Israel war. Now, like, here's how you know. Look, first off, as soon as that war starts, within days, that's when you have a decision that came out of nowhere from the Pentagon that the United States was no longer sending any weaponry, any missiles, any defense systems, nothing to Ukraine. Why? Because Israel needed it. See, the thing is, if Russia is backing Israel, those Patriot systems, I know Trump says they're the greatest thing ever. They kind of suck. They're actually not that great. They fail all the time. And so if Israel could get some money for them and get some better gear from Russia, then they would. And here's what I want to remind people too: is like you're saying that militarily Russia didn't send anything to Iran, but they were also helping, right? Like, so for example, a lot of the nuclear scientists in Iran are actually Russian, and they kept them there the whole time during the war to like help with whatever might happen, because obviously those facilities were being struck. So I don't think it's totally fair to say that Russia did nothing. I mean, obviously, like maybe they could have done more, right? Like if people were asking for, for them to send like the big stuff, right? But that's what I'm trying to say is that essentially it makes a lot more sense when because you're saying there's this appearance that actually the politicians here are being pushed in by Russia because they serve their interests. But then you also say, well, some of those interests actually align with Israeli interests. So there it kind of makes sense, right? So actually all of the interests at the core are Israeli, and sometimes if they act through Russia, then you say, well, they supported this candidate. Again, we have this like little love triangle going on. And you say, well, that's a more immediate connection to Russia in this case. But that doesn't necessarily say that it's like Russia's prerogative. It's actually what Israel wants. And that's why I'm saying it doesn't matter if you get the Russia guy in there, they're still going to do whatever, the root of this, which is what Israel wants, that's still going to be the agenda, no matter what. That's why I'm just saying it's like almost arbitrary to say, well, this is this is the Russia-backed candidate, because it doesn't matter. They're still going to do whatever's good for Israel. You
But
see what I mean?
you've got to remember there are 2 million Russian Jews in Israel, and that Putin, if you look at the software of the place, Putin has said that it is little Russia and that it will always protect its interests there. So you are correct in the sense that, okay, they'll help to an extent, but it is a strategic pact between the two where they're helping militarily, they've helped with training. You speak to an American military contractor, they don't know any of this, right? They don't realize that these things have gone on. Russian and Israeli collaboration and partnership has gone on for decades. There was a brief break in the 60s and 70s, but that was it.
Well,
But then,
here's
yeah,
real quick, but here's what I say is I don't think Putin or Russian government wants to see Israel destroyed. I don't think they're there yet, right? We see him Putin meeting with the rabbis in his own house. Orthodox candidate Dmitry does some work on this too. I think it's WWN host is his tag here. He
no, I'm saying
points this out too.
Netanyahu went to meet Netanyahu went to meet Putin something like 12 times over 3 years. He's met Putin more than he's met any American leader.
Well, here's the thing is I don't think they want Israel destroyed. At least Putin and this
No, it's the
government.
opposite.
But
Yeah.
I don't think they wanted to see Israel destroyed. But I also don't think that they want to contend the Israeli lobby in the United States for political prowess. I don't think they just don't see it as something they need to do. Like as you mentioned, according to you, their interests are already kind of globally aligned. So why should they compete with them on the political front with the lobbies and get their hands dirty there when pretty much Israel is already 98% successful at doing that?
So it's
Right?
not.
So
I'm
like,
not
what's the
arguing that
point?
it's lobbies doing it. I guess we use different terminology. They've got certain people who represent their messaging towards the White House and who influence the White House. Tucker Carlson's one of them. It was Tucker Carlson who midwifed Vance being in the White House. He was one of the ones, along with the Teal Mafia, who insisted on Vance being the vice president, and that's what would ensure the Teal money, the Edelson money, would come in for Trump and not another candidate like DeSantis, right?
I
So
think it's like I think it's like 2% Tucker. I think it's 0.2% Tucker and 98.9% PayPal Mafia. They've had this plan in place since Trump's first term.
yeah,
This is just a continuation of what they were already doing before,
yeah.
and Tucker
Jump in
wasn't
when I
even
go,
in
Joe,
it.
by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this has been in the making for a very long time. You're right, but to say that Carlson hasn't had a hand in, midwifing Vance, and again, if you had to say, is Vance pro-Israel right now,
I mean,
Carlson's
I would say Carlson's had more of an impact on what you're saying, Trillian. Like, you have to think that when you're creating someone from nothing, it's not as simple as just clicking the finger or doing what Thiel did, but you need an avenue to perpetuate him as well. The fact that I believe Carlson had him on for more than 40 times on his show wasn't just as simple as just the 0.2%.
wow,
I mean, don't get me wrong.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. 40
Yeah.
times.
I believe it's
Bloody hell.
40. I don't know the exact number. I know it's more than 40.
Let me clarify real quick. So when it
But
terms,
I agree with you. The main component was the PayPal Mafia. I agree with that as well, though.
what I meant to say is sentiment-wise, right? Like voter base, yes, I would agree that Tucker had an impact there. But I mean, as far as agenda and like real policy, that like the real stuff that
you have
they
to
actually
think
have.
Trillian. But what do you mean by that? Because like, when you want to implant
Yeah, White Rose,
someone
great point.
and
I'm
make
going to
them the
bring that up here
president
in
of
a
the United
second because it's
States, like
starting to
House of
really get on
Cards
my
is basically what's
nerves.
happening. You've basically got this guy, and you're going to say he's going to be the president, and he probably is going to be the president in 2028. what do you need? So you need Peter Thiel, obviously, and to create him, to implant him, to put him in other various positions. All his money's behind him. They back him in that way. But then, and that's good enough maybe for a Senate seat. But when you need him to become the vice president, you need some notoriety. You need some people need to know who he is. People need to see him. People need to be aware of him. And that's where Tucker Carlson came along. Now, again, I agree with you that the biggest proponent, without a doubt, was Thiel and the entire PayPal mafia. And so they clearly instructed Trump that this is going to be the guy. And as you said, as it was mentioned in the Alex Jones show, he was told 4 months earlier, right? But then Tucker Carlson definitely made that call as well. Now, how much of an impact it had? I think it had some impact. I don't think it had the entirety of the impact. I think if Carlson hadn't made the call, I think he still would have been chosen as president. So I guess that's what you're trying to say, because Peter Thiel already had him. But then if Carlson hadn't basically platformed him as much as he did, maybe Thiel wouldn't have been able to get him as president, but probably still would have, but it would have been a bit more of a difficult situation. So I agree with you that PayPal Mafia definitely had a huge impact. I just think Carlson's impact wasn't as minimal as probably what, I don't think you meant that anyway, but yeah, as that.
Yeah,
There was a
I
quote
might have.
somewhere, wasn't there, that he was the one who insisted on him, like he was the one who did the introduction or something or the other. But don't quote me.
No, that's not right. But he called Trump to say that you need to have Vance,
Yeah,
because he's the non-neocon guy was the argument.
You
yeah, he
guys are
wanted him.
saying that placing him next to Trump, right? I think what I meant more so is like the actual agenda that the government, because again, Trump campaigned on a bunch of stuff that he didn't actually, like the stuff that he's doing on a day-to-day basis, like real policy, is not his campaign promises. And so that's all I'm saying is that, like, you know, if Tucker had some involvement in making Trump or making Vance like a recognizable name, like a household name, yeah, I would agree with you in those terms. But I mean, in terms of like what the government actually set out to do, I don't think Tucker had very much actual like serious influence in the government's like true platform, not just their campaign promises.
It's
You
an
know what I mean?
unusual
So
White House in the sense
I've
that
just
people
got
like
a
Laura
super chat.
Loomer can walk right in and have people sacked. It's an unusual White House in the sense that Trump does
Yeah,
listen to public opinion.
because she's a Zionist and she's pro-Israel,
Yeah.
and she's so I've just got the super chat for you, Habiba, and it's from TS Process, and it said, please ask Habiba who Alex Karp thinks Sauron is. Karp openly said that Russia and China are a joke. What a joke this lady is. Basically making the argument that Karp is very much pro-Israel, which we know he is. Palantir is, and he's called Russia and China evil.
It's funny because I had a fight with Joe Lonsdale, who denied, who's Palantir, obviously, founder, who denied that he was employing Vadim Moscovich's son. So he employs two sanctioned Russians who, Israeli Russians, who work, again, with the Duma and with the FSB. You know, you can't make it up. So if anyone wants to take Alex Karp at face value, by all means, go ahead. I just think it's a foolish thing to do. The common,
Yeah, I would just take Palantir's actions, and their actions are very much pro-Ukraine.
yeah, and the common denominator with every single person who's attacking Fuentes is that they are pro-Russian, right? It's not whether or not they are pro-Israel or not, because the Tates aren't pro-Israel, but they are pro-Russian, and that's why they're supporting Vance. Look at it that way. It's campists going to bat for their man.
I think they're supporting Vance though because Vance helped them out in a pinch. Like I feel like that makes more sense. I just don't see him that political. But by the way, Joe Lonsdale happens to be one of my favorite tech villains. I just want everybody to know that. Don't mess with him. He will microwave you from space, right? Joe Lonsdale. Yeah, he is one of the founders though. Very interesting guy. Definitely a villain, but he's like a cool villain, you know? Did you actually interact with him or you just mean on the timeline?
Yeah, I'll post it up. We just had a couple of spats.
Don't mess with Joe. He'll microwave your ass. No, but that's interesting. I just don't think he's. I don't know. Maybe I just never read into Tate being that like politically driven. To be totally honest with you.
I don't think Tate is, and I don't think
No.
Candace is. Tucker, obviously, I think there is some connections that are worthy of having a conversation.
Tucker. So here's the people to watch out for: Tucker, Joe Kent, obviously the PayPal mafia.
What about Loomer? Are you friends with Loomer?
No, none of us are. She's a psycho, you know.
Okay, all right. Just
I'm like
sanity check.
I'm hardcore anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian. Like there's no two ways. It's just like, again, to understand the threat that both of them pose, you have to understand how they work together, and their threat vectors are amplified. They're more dangerous than people think because they work with Russia.
Yeah, this is.
I just want to welcome Gary and go ahead, Joe. Oh, sorry, Dennis. I thought
You have to bounce because I've got guests here. But
sorry, now I'm going to be quick.
As always, I appreciate you guys.
Stay,
And appreciate
Habiba. Stay for 10 minutes.
This is to me is ridiculous.
Go ahead, Joe. Jump in then, because you know I don't want you to miss out on a chance.
I'm always pro Joa, but I have to say goodbye because I've got guests here from abroad. But I appreciate you guys.
Can I just ask a question real quick?
Damn, simping hard.
Yeah, I don't understand.
She's pro-Ukraine, so I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it sounds.
She had a different opinion. People wanted to push back. But go ahead.
Yeah, it just sounds to me like she's a propagandist for Ukraine. I mean, when you say that JD Vance is pro-Russian, but you have to look at Victoria Nuland, who was involved in the Maidan coup. You have to talk about the fact that Russia has warned over and over again that if you continue to expand NATO to our border, we're going to invade. The constant attacks on the Donbass region, he's warned about that. And Lindsey Graham is obviously a hawk when it comes to this war. Countless actors have gone to Ukraine. Countless senators and House reps have gone to Ukraine. And to sit there and say that J.D. Vance is like isolated and he's the only guy that's pro-Russia, and that somehow Russia attacked Ukraine and unprovoked is a ridiculous argument. And everything that you're saying to me at face value sounds like you are, or I guess she's left, is she's a Ukrainian propagandist. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
She said that.
Ukraine isn't even a real country. Okay, let's stop the games.
Hold on,
it's not even the real country.
Top geopolitical. Go ahead.
She said she was very clear about that, right? So that's not like a revelation, Dennis. She said she was pro-Ukraine. She said she worked for the military-industrial complex. So she said that, right? So of course she's gonna propagandize her position. But I just want to welcome Gary onto the stage. Gary, how you doing? You okay?
I'm doing well, my friend. And yourself?
Doing good. There's a lot of power in the space right now, right, Gary?
Yeah, I mean, I heard that Simon has that 33 too. It makes sense why I always respected his ass.
Yeah, Simon's a hidden
What's 33? My father was born in 1933.
It means influence. He has a lot of influence.
According to numerology, Simon, you're a 33.
I tell you what, I will say, whatever Habiba is, I think bringing someone in from that type of angle definitely added to the conversation and made everyone really think about their position. So I think overall it's a net positive, just injecting a very different perspective in, even if it's propaganda.
What's the perspective? If the Chinese had tanks in fucking Toronto, right by the American border, we wouldn't put up with it. Why should the Russians put up with the NATO right by their border? It's ridiculous, man.
I've come to the conclusion that anybody who wants to supports Ukraine continuing the war actually hates Ukraine. What does it mean to be pro-Ukraine? Like pro getting the rest of them all slaughtered? Like that's terrible. But Gary, I just want to ask you, how did you let Shmuley just walk all over you in that interview? Like, what happened, man?
I let him walk all over me?
I'm just joking, dude.
Are you kidding me?
Connection, dude. What was that?
That was his connection. That was not mine. He's somewhere in Germany.
Shmuley, Gary.
No, stop the games. Stop the games. I fucking destroyed his ass,
you
bro.
let the 33s down. Now me and Simon are disappointed in you.
Stop the games. Anyone can watch that thing, and anyone with the IQ above 50 knows I smashed that idiot.
We're downgrading you to a real prime number 30.
All right, everybody. I'm shutting the stream down. I'm going to stay in the space. White Rose, thanks for joining. I appreciate it. Anybody else on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. I think, White, you are subscribed. Good to hear from you. Thank you for your chats. And head over, if you're not on X, go into X and then head into the Suleiman's space and hang out there with us. But I have to shut down the space. I'm getting tired. And again, thanks for